Everybody, and welcome to this live race day from Donington Park. It's the BRSCC finals weekend, always one of the most exciting weekends of motor racing in the UK, and we're thoroughly looking forward to whatever today has in store for us. There are championships to be decided and some of the most exciting national level series. Well, good morning, will be out on track over the course of the day as well. Apologies first of all for a few technical issues we were encountering over the course of the morning. It meant that we couldn't bring you the first race of the day, but you've only missed one race. We're still bringing you the entire rest of the programme, there are championships to be decided, which is a total of about 13 races coming your way today around the Donington Park National Circuit, from everything from tin tops to sports cars. We've got the one-make Mazda MX-5 championships, the MX-5 Super Cup, and the older series Mark 1 cars. Here is the timetable for today. So unfortunately we had to miss that first race, the MX-5 Super Cup. I'll give you the result for that later on. Up next we will have the second race of the weekend for the Mazda MX-5 Championship for the Mark 1 cars. That will be followed at 10:40 by the Excool OSS Championship. Then race 2B for the Mazda MX-5 Championship will be up at 11:10. The BRSCC Alfashop Alfa Romeo Championship up after that as well. The Honda VTEC Challenge and the Mighty Minis will round out the morning's programme. We kick off then at about 2:05 for the afternoon action. Here is a look at the track then, the 1.9 mile Donington Park National Circuit, one of the most exciting tracks in the country. It always produces cracking racing. Down the right hand side of the screen there, some of the lap records. It's very cold here today, so it may be difficult for them to break those lap records, but we shall see. The most recent of those set in the Mazda MX-5 Super Cup, Mazda MX-5 Championship by James Blake Baldwin last year. Was 125.4. That was his lap record last year. We may well see that one broken though this weekend. So we are waiting for cars to emerge from the assembly area for our next race. A little bit of cleaner work to be done out on the circuit after a qualifying session we've just had. So this will be for the Mazda MX-5 Championship. And yesterday they had their first set of races. There are the cars lining up in the assembly area. Hot off the press, about 5 minutes ago, I was handed an amended result for yesterday's first race, which has very big championship ramifications. Coming into this weekend, Darren Lewis and Sam Smith were tied for the championship lead in the MX-5 Championship on 1,244 points apiece. Now, in yesterday's race, Sam Smith had a bit of a drama. He was then also, having forced his way back onto the podium, given a time penalty for beating the track limits, but he has now been disqualified entirely from yesterday's race, which means he scores 0 points, and he can't count that as one of his drop scores either, which really takes him completely now out of championship contention. Race yesterday was won by Brian Chandler. Ben Took was second, Darren Lewis was third, James Harris got up into fourth place, and Simon Baldwin rounded out the top 5, and all of that means that Brian Chandler now moves into a very slender championship lead. He is, by my reckoning, 4 points clear of Darren Lewis in second place. Third place is Ben Took, but he's now over 10 points behind, and then Simon Baldwin will be fourth in points. Sam Smith has dropped out of contention now though, with 100 points available for a race win. He's lost an awful lot of ground to the front of the championship. So the grid for this one, based on the results of yesterday's race. So it is same protagonists who will be towards the sharp end. So Brian Chandler, yesterday's winner, will be at the very front of the field. Ben Took alongside him. Darren Lewis there, you can see going through in the 285 car. James Harris was very, very impressive yesterday to get into fourth place. We also have a promotion and demotion system which works in the Mazda MX-5 Championship, whereby the bottom 5 finishers in this A race get demoted to the B race for the third race of the weekend, whereas the top 5 finishers in the B race, which will be up in about 40 minutes time or so, get promoted into the A race for their final race of the weekend. Now, the reason that matters is you can only score the maximum 100 points for winning an A race. If you win a B race, you're only going to be scoring about 40 odd points. So championship-wise, it's crucial that those main championship contenders stay in contention for the A race for their third race later on this afternoon, rather than slipping into the B race. That will end their championship hopes for sure. This is a championship that in recent years has been dominated by Mr. Mazda MX-5, Tom Roach, who is a multiple champion across the Mark 1 Mazda MX-5 disciplines. But he has not come back this year to retain his title. Neither has the reigning champion, in fact James Blake Baldwin, who won it last year, which has opened the door for several of the drivers, the likes of Darren Lewis, Brian Chandler and Sam Smith, to fight for the championship this year. And that is why we've had one of the most competitive seasons in years. The racing is always close in this championship, but Tom Roach really was a class above the rest when he was competing. Now, though, he has left the championship, opened the door for somebody else to come and take the crown away. Cars making their way around on the green flag lap. All the races today will be preceded by a green flag lap, so the drivers can get some heat into the brakes and tyres. As I said, it is very, very cold here today at Donington Park. It's grey and gloomy as well. There's a definite threat of some rain later on, as if there wasn't enough excitement in store for us. So tricky conditions for the drivers, and we will see, I'm sure, a few of them slipping up on the first few laps if they don't have the tyre and brake temperatures quite where they need them. A good look there at the 44 car lining up on the grid. That's Paul Bishop, who will start 8th place on the grid for this race. Cars line up then on the pit straight, and the purple and silver car, that is Brian Chandler, pole position for him. Alongside him is Ben Tuck in the white number 3 car, Darren Lewis and James Harris row 2, Simon Baldwin, Ben Short row 3, Martin Tolley, Paul Bishop row 4, Simon Woods and Paul Tucker row 5. Of course, Sam Smith is no longer in the A race. He was disqualified, which means the 5 who were promoted were Paul Maguire, Josh Jackson, Chris Hart, John Coburn-Evans and Roger Chenot. They will all start at the back of this grid. So 20 minutes the duration for this penultimate round of the Mazda MX-5 Championship. The green flag is about to be waved at the back of the field. The last few rows of the grid being organised. Brian Chandler then with this very slim championship lead over Darren Lewis. That's the one to watch really. The purple car of Chandler and then the grey and silver car of Lewis, who starts 3rd. They are separated by just 4 points in the championship, and this is the penultimate race. The final round will be later on this afternoon. So green flag has been waved at the back. The red lights go on. They go out now, and away we go, and it is a good start from Ben Tuck from the outside of the front row. Chandler, though, as he goes through the gears, draws back alongside him. They rush towards Redgate Corner, and here comes Darren Lewis. Darren Lewis is trying to get up the inside of Ben Tuck for 2nd place. He's done it into Redgate Corner, so that's a good move there for Darren Lewis. Gets himself right onto the tail of his championship rival. Do they all get safely through Redgate Corner? Yes, they do. Bit of squeezing and pushing and shoving towards the back, but they're all through safely. But it is going to be Brian Chandler versus Darren Lewis, and already the fight is on as they go down through the crane of curves. Darren is eager to try and get through and get cars between himself and Brian for the championship. He can't make a move for the time being though. Down through the crane of curves, a bit of a gaggle of cars further back. That's the 81 car, Richard Breland, making a move. Everyone safely through the old hairpin, up through Schwantz curve, and it's Chandler from Lewis, from Tuck. Harris looks like he's settled into 4th place. Yes, he has. And Ben Short, I think that is, who's come into 5th place. He's gained a place at the expense of Simon Baldwin off the start. A few lockups, as I suggested, there might be a few drivers struggling for tyre and brake temperature on the opening lap. That's what we're seeing here. Through Coppice, out onto the back straight, and this is where the slipstream starts to take effect here at Donington Park. These cars are not the most aerodynamic and they're not all that powerful, so the slipstream has a big part to play in keeping the pack close together and enabling plenty of overtaking. Silver and black car there is Simon Goddard, who we saw out in the Mazda Super Cup races this year as well. He's second half of the season hasn't been all that successful, which is why he's not in championship contention really coming into this final meeting. Down towards Redgate Corner they come then, end of the first lap, and it's Chandler that leads the way. Lewis is in 2nd place, Tuck is in 3rd, no one ducking out of line. Look, you've got a 7-car group all the way back to Paul Bishop in 7th, who have broken away at the head of the field. There is the number 9 car of Simon Baldwin. Now Simon started 5th and he's dropped down into, where did he cross the line then? 8th place, yes, 8th place for Simon Baldwin at the end of the first lap, so that's not gone to plan. Simon Goddard as well dropped down the order, as I just mentioned. Ooh, and a bit of a moment there for Paul Tucker, who goes on the inside of him into the old hairpin, and there's Richard Breland making a good move on the 101 car of Simon Woods, the orange 101 car, and they all get themselves together going up through Starkeys and Schwantz curve. Meanwhile, the lead group is at McLean's, and we've had a change for 4th place because Short has gone ahead of James Harris. So Ben Short gets himself into the 4th position. He's won races this year as well. He's been a front runner throughout most of the season. So now ahead of this fight for 8th place is Tucker. Paul Tucker's got himself ahead of Simon Baldwin, who's actually lost even more ground because he's behind Simon Goddard now. So that didn't work out well for Baldwin at all, did it? He's well outside the top 10 now. Down towards the chicane at the end of the lap for the 2nd time then. Simon Woods looks to the inside there on the brakes, but Can't quite do it. Leaders are pushing themselves across the start-finish line. I can see out of my window, Darren Lewis is really trying to work with Brian Chandler here to escape, but there's a move being made by Ben Short by the looks of it as well, maybe for third place. He was ducking out of line. Meanwhile, Richard Breland goes up the inside of Paul Tucker into Redgate corner. That's another move made, so that now puts him into, that will be now 8th place for him. Richard Breland's running well. He started down in 13th on the grid. Here are the leaders though, and yes, Darren Lewis is starting to signal his intent here. He wants to try and move through into the race lead if he can. It's now a 5-car lead train running wide there. Ben Short in 3rd place. Nothing to choose between this leading quintet of cars. The fastest lap has gone to Short as well. So Short has that fastest lap. Still there in the 3rd place then now, ahead of Ben Tuck. Up towards Coppice then, leading 5 cars. It is Chandler from Lewis. They are your top 2. Then 3rd place for Ben Shaw. 4th is Ben Tuck. 5th place James Harris. And that then is Martin Tolley in the red and black car, who's trying to go with them, and he's just about within slipstream range. I think here comes Darren Lewis for the race lead though. They make a little bit of contact down the back straight. He's up the inside into the final chicane. This should be a done deal, because Brian Chandler can't afford really to hang it around the outside and risk contact. So Darren Lewis is your new race leader. Then Chandler's a little bit sluggish out of the chicane, gets a nerf in the tail from Ben Short in the 14 car. What a sight they make as they stream across the line. Martin Tolley is there now, so it's 6 cars for the lead, and Chandler wants the lead back. Goes back up the inside of Darren Lewis, retakes it. Lewis risks losing 2nd place if he's not careful here though, because Ben Short is there, eager to pick up the pieces if it all goes wrong. Lewis gets eased out onto the curb. Short up the inside, he's going through, and then Ben Tuck in the white and purple number 3 car will go through as well. So, having briefly taken the lead in 2 corners time, Darren Lewis goes from 1st to nearly 4th. Is he going to lose that 3rd place? He is, isn't he? So Ben Tuck does go through into a podium position at the old hairpin. Darren Lewis down to 4th, which means that Chandler is extending his championship lead ever further. Up through Schwantz Curve then, Chandler leads the way now. 2nd place Ben Short. Darren Lewis goes up the inside of Ben Tuck for 3rd, locks up the front brakes. That was a bit risky. He's got James Harris in the 37 car on his tail. So again, if he makes any more mistakes, he risks losing more positions. Through Coppice corner, out onto the back straight. Now, is Brian Chandler maybe starting to pull away here? It looks like he might be, because Ben Short and Ben Tuck, 2 Bens, are dicey half for 2nd place. So you can see that Short is defending his inside line down towards the chicane. Now, once you start defending, you back up the pace and you hold yourself and the cars behind you up, which is what's allowing Chandler just to make this little bit of a break. Behind, we saw James Harris and Martin Tolley go side by side into the corner, but Harris held on to 5th place, and Paul Bishop is getting closer to them again now as well. Up towards Redgate corner then, Chandler escaping. It's Short in 2nd, Tuck is 3rd, goes to the outside, but he didn't want to because he knew that would open the door for Darren Lewis. It does open the door for Lewis. He goes back through into 3rd. James Harris had a little look at the inside into the corner as well. Lewis though then runs wide on the extra Redgate through Hollywood. He manages to hang on to that P3, but he can see all the time his championship rival Brian Chandler is running away with this one. 13 and 3/4 minutes to go though, so still over half race distance left. Now will Darren Lewis try and work with Ben Short here, or will he try and get through and make his own way? 2 or 3 or 4 cars working together in theory should be quicker than one on its own, because of the effect of the draft that I mentioned earlier on. The problem for Lewis here is that Short is defending and it continues to back everybody up. Through McLean, Short is acting almost as a good wingman here for Brian Chandler, isn't he? Up towards Coppice corner they go. James Harris is going for 4th place around the outside of Ben Tuck, but can't do it. This is fabulous racing, just what the Mazda MX-5 Championship is all about. And Martin Tolley slips up the inside of James Harris. That's 5th place now for Martin. On the exit of Coppice, gets through. Further back, Richard Breland is still at the head of the next pack of cars, but this is the real dice to watch for, because this includes the championship contenders. Ben Tuck is 3rd in the championship, remember, so he has every reason to go for this. He's quite some way behind the championship leader, Brian Chandler. 19 points back, but he could still get there. Look at the ducking and diving going in towards Redgate corner. Here are the fights further back. Oh, there's been a bad run through the chicane there for Paul Bishop, hasn't there? Because he's dropped several places. Sideways for Simon Woods, off into the gravel at Redgate. Oh, dearie me. Well, he'll get out of there, but a long way down the pack. Where did he rejoin? Let's see if we can pick him up at the top of the hill. Yes, there he is, just rejoining. Way down the order, lost about 5 or 6 places because of that, didn't he? A bit too eager into Redgate corner, took too much speed, lost the rear, and off he went. down through the old hairpin. Yes, Paul Tucker lost several positions in the chicane on that last lap because he was just in behind Richard Breland, but there are now several cars between the two of them. Back to the lead pack though, making their way around the far side of the circuit at McLean's, and now up the hill into the blind right-hander at Coppice. It's a tricky corner this, the car goes light, you can't see the apex until you're on it. Very easy to run wide. Many a great racing driver has been through that gravel trap there on the outside of Coppice corner. And the back straight, you can see there, Ben Short immediately goes to the white line on the inside of the racetrack. Darren Lewis pushing him down the straight, trying to work with him, but as long as Short is defending, they won't go all that quickly, and Chandler is escaping up the road. He had a 1.6 second lead at the end of the previous lap, and it will only be extending now. Let's see what it is this time as they come across the line. Chandler goes through. Second place is still Short, but he's now 1.9 back, so they lost another 3/10. Lewis needs to get on with this, I think, and get through, but he daren't go out of line for risk of letting Ben Short through. That's exactly what might happen. Short has a look at the inside into Redgate. It's so difficult when you're in a big line of cars like this. You're attacking and defending at the same time. Lewis now has a look to the inside of Short through Hollywood, but Ben closes the door firmly but fairly in his face. Lewis needs to get on with it. 6 cars contesting second place then. It's Ben Short, Darren Lewis, Ben Tuck, Martin Tolley, James Harris and Paul Bishop. Bit of a mistake there maybe from Ben Short, just missed the apex through the old hairpin. He gets himself sorted out before they get towards the kink at Starkey's. Up towards McLean's then. Who's going to make the move this time? Maybe on the brakes into the right-hander. Nobody, they all stay in line. They're approaching half-race distance now as well. There's the confirmation of 1.9 second lead for Brian Chandler, so he's not racing away quite as quickly as I might have expected. Here's an opportunity maybe for Darren Lewis, bit of paint he trades with Ben Short in second place as Short was defending into the corner, and you saw how much he had to slow down at the apex to avoid running wide on the exit and opening the door for Lewis to go through, and that's what's losing them time. See a rundown of the rest of the field going down the order at the moment. Simon Baldwin has retired from this race as well. He's dropped out whilst we were watching this fight. So at the moment, 5 drivers who would be demoted: Simon Baldwin, Graham Colby, Richard Collins, Michael Lawson, and the number 4 car as well of Henderson would be going. David Henderson, that is, would be demoted. Darren Lewis looks to the inside again of Ben Short through Redgate, but can't quite find a Mazda MX-5 size gap. Yes, the bottom 5 finishers get demoted to the B race, unless there are non-finishers, in which case they get demoted first, if you like. So at the moment we've had 1 DNF, which is Simon Baldwin, so the bottom 4 finishers will go along with him into the B race. Leaders down through Old Hairpin then. On this, the 8th lap of the race. Yesterday we got 14 laps in, we didn't have any safety cars, so 14 laps we'd expect to get out of this one as well. Chandler is now 2 seconds ahead, so he's only taking a tenth or so out of them. But if they did work together, you'd have to say they might just be able to catch him. Paul Bishop is still there with the back of them. Through Coppice they go, out onto the exhibition straight, and again Short goes to the white line immediately. Darren's not under as much pressure this time though from Ben Tuck, and so he knows he can go to the outside and try this, maybe try and get Short on the ropes a little bit more. This could be a chance for Darren, maybe not through the chicane, but maybe down into Redgate, because Ben Tuck's got problems of his own. That's Martin Tolley, who runs out wide. He's got the fastest lap of the race, but he runs out wide and loses the place to James Harris. So James Harris draws alongside him anyway. Paul Bishop goes to the outside as well to maybe help James. James is going to squeeze across to the inside into Redgate corner. Tolley fights back and Bishop goes around the outside of both of them. Fantastic driving from Paul Bishop. He's got past James, but Martin Tolley has been racing Mazda MX-5 for quite some time, and he eases Paul out wide over the curbs. They're still wheel to wheel though, down through Hollywood and the Craner curves. This is getting very interesting indeed. Down into the left-hander, Bishop on the right, Tolley on the left. Paul still can't make the move stick, and Tolley now has the inside line for the old hairpin. James Harris could even fight back as well, and he does. James Harris goes through, fantastic stuff. And the car behind is Richard Breland. Richard Breland has bridged the gap from the second pack of cars to this pack fighting at the front. That's fantastic driving from Richard, who started 13th. He's currently in 8th place, but he can see a potential 4th place finish if he can get past this group. Group of McLean's again, so remarkably nothing actually changed then, but it very nearly did down through the Craner curves. Paul Bishop now has to try it all again. James Harris likewise to get past Martin Tolley. Now the exhibition straight then. Now Darren Lewis has been caught again by Ben Tuck, so there was his opportunity to attack without fear of being attacked by the other Ben Tuck. wheel out onto the grass coming out of the final chicane. Chandler's gone through already, but I think they're catching him, aren't they? Yes, they are. The gap came down quite significantly that time. A slow lap from Brian Chandler. They took over a second out of him. The gap is now under 1 second between the top two. So all of a sudden, this is coming back to Ben Short, Darren Lewis and Ben Tuck. Darren Lewis runs wide out of Redgate. Somehow, by the skin of his teeth, hangs on to third place. But I reckon they could catch Chandler here, because certainly Ben Short is just about within slipstreaming range. If he catches a whiff of that draft down the back straight, he'll be on Chandler before you know it. Just under 6.5 minutes remain. Towards McLean's they go. Changes towards the back of the field now, because Kevin Brent has dropped down into the bottom 5, and so too has Courtney Milnes. So they're now both being demoted, along with Graham Colby, Simon Baldwin, and the number 13 car, which is Paul Maguire. Those 5 will be going into the B race later on. So, yes, this lead gap has now evaporated, hasn't it? And Short is bringing Lewis and Tuck with him. So Chandler, having spent most of the middle portion of the race out on his own, has now been caught, and here comes the challenge from Short. You can see visually there the effect of the slipstream. His car isn't more powerful, that's just from sitting in the toe down the straight, and he cut what was maybe a half a second lead at the start of the straight to nothing when they come across the line. Officially then, when they cross the line this time, the gap is 0.1 of a second, but surely Short is going to have a go into Redgate corner then. Chandler doesn't feel the need to defend, so he's confident enough on the brakes that he can stay in front. This is going to be a cracking final 4 laps of the race, isn't it? Through Redgate corner, Darren Lewis has to beat Brian Chandler really in this one, you'd say, to keep his championship hopes alive, because there are only 2 points difference per position. If you win, you get 100 points. Second is 98, third is 96. So it's very hard to take significant points out of another driver, and with only 1 race left, Lewis needs to cut down this 4-point deficit that he's got to Chandler in the championship. So he needs to not only get ahead of Ben Short for second, but he needs to try and get past Chandler for the race lead if he can. Rouchewant's curve then, leading trio now, because they're dropping Ben Tuck slightly. James Harris is now ahead of Richard Breland, who is ahead of Martin Tolley. So that's all changed round behind, as Ben Short's a bit slow out of McLean's, as Darren Lewis got up the inside in towards Coppice corner. Yes, he has, and he bullies his way through. Darren Lewis goes second, and here comes Ben Tuck for third place. Ben Tuck seizes the opportunity, carries the momentum through the corner, and 2 places lost for Ben Short. So now Lewis is in second place, but he can't afford to get embroiled in this battle, because look what's happening. Brian Chandler is pulling away again in front of them. He needs these 2 cars behind him to work with him, but at the moment he's having to defend. Of course, if the 2 Bens start tripping over each other, that could help him as well. That was a scrappy run through the chicane though for Lewis, and now Ben Tuck tries to make his second position in as many corners, draws alongside the 285 car going across the start-finish line, and he goes through. So Ben Tuck goes second, and now Ben Short is going around the outside as well. Cracking racing. This has woken everyone up, hasn't it, this morning on a cold and gloomy morning at Donington Park. This is just what the doctor ordered. Lewis is a bit slow out of the corner. Ben Short gets up the inside of him going towards Hollywood and goes back through. So Lewis was in second half a lap ago. He's now back down to 4th again. So deep breath. Here we go again, down through the Craner curve into the old hairpin. You can overtake, and these Mazda MX-5s, you carry so much mid-corner speed, it's hard to do that really. Richard Breland is now 5th, by the way, ahead of James Harris, just behind that group, so he got ahead of James that time. And those 2, and Martin Tolley and Paul Bishop, are all still having a ding-dong battle. Paul, you can see, has just dropped off that group. But the 3 in front of him, Breland, Harris and Tolley, are tied together. Chandler is now further ahead, ironically, than he has been at any point in the race, because after setting that poor lap a few laps ago, he's just done his personal best, 1:25.496. He's still about half a second away from what he did in yesterday in the race. A bit of debris there on the exit of Coppice corner. Yes, here is that group behind then. Richard Breland up into the 5th place, but they were side by side for second going into the chicane there. Ben Tuck and Ben Short. Short was going to the outside. Don't think he made that work. Let's have a look. No, he didn't. No, that position didn't change. Chandler then leads the way. Ben Tuck is second. Ben Short is third. Darren Lewis is 4th, pulling out of line there in the silver car towards Redgate corner, then goes back up the inside. That's very late on the brakes. It might just work though. He's up the inside of Ben Short. He's going back into 3rd place. He'll ease Ben out onto the grass on the exit. The rear-wheel drive Mazda MX-5 loses traction and loses the place. So back onto the podium for Lewis. This is damage limitation at least. He's only now losing another 4 points to Brian Chandler, but he would now have to hope that Brian had some sort of issue in the final race later on today if he was going to have any chance of getting ahead of him in the points. Darren is then wide through the old hairpin, and Ben Short goes on the inside through Starkeys. That's a brave place to get alongside someone. The flat-out King took 2 wheels to the dirt, but he didn't make move 6. Into the claims. Richard Breland is having just set the personal best lap. He took about 2 seconds out of this group last time. Yeah, this is a good battle. I've been watching out of the window actually as well. It's way down the order. Well outside the top 10, it includes Gary Hufford and the 29 car of Adam Craig. They've been having a ding-dong scrap. This is what Mazda MX-5 racing has always been about though. Close quarters racing, relatively clean, most of the time anyway, and cost effective as well. And wherever you are on the grid, you have someone to play with. Unless your name's Brian Chandler, because he's now 3.2 seconds ahead of the rest. Here is the Richard Breland, Simon Goddard, and the 18 car there is Clive Powell's, who's caught up to them now. Powell's got ahead of Hughes, who I think has disappeared on this lap. I think we might have just lost the 33 car of John Hughes. There's Richard Breland with James Harris. And Hughes is there, but he's just gone past me now in my commentary position on the start-finish line, but he's dropped way back. James Harris then trying to find a way back into the top 5 ahead of Richard Breland. Down the Craner curves for what will be the final time, I'd imagine. We may just squeeze one more lap out of this actually. We may get an extra lap today than we got yesterday. The pace hasn't been quite as quick though, it's going to be touch and go. When the time elapses, the next time the cars come across the start-finish line, that's when the checkered flag is shown. Oh, here's the battle for second place, and Darren Lewis wants it, doesn't he? He's caught back up to Ben Tuck, having briefly dropped back with his scrap with Ben Short. But they're both caught him now. Short has a look at the inside into Coppice, but he was too far back really. And now into the slipstream, down the back straight for the final time. And here we go then. What's going to happen for second? I think Ben Tuck might just have enough here, but in the slipstream, Darren Lewis is closing. Defensive line taken by Ben Tuck. What does Ben Short do as well? Lewis can't afford to lose another position, so he plays it safe on the inside line, but Short tries to go right around the outside. Oh, they make a little bit of contact. Short sideways over the curb. Darren, dearie me. Brian Chandler wins the race, but what's going to happen behind? It's going to be Ben Tuck in second. Lewis will be third, and Ben Short will be fourth. Richard Breland is fifth. James Harris is sixth. Martin Tolley seventh. Paul Bishop is in eighth place. Ninth place, I think, will be Paul Tucker. Just wait till he crosses the line, and up here out of it. No, it's Simon Goddard. Simon Goddard got Paul Tucker on the last corner. So Tucker drops down into 10th, then it's Hughes 11th, Bateman 12th, and then the 129 car of Adam Bessel is in 13th. Clive Powell's dropped down to 14th on that last lap with a slow lap. Gary Hufford and then everyone else making their way through. I'm just going to keep watching the timing screen to see who the bottom 5 finishers are, but there is your race winner. Brian Chandler takes one step closer to the title. He will take, by my reckoning, a further 4 points out of Darren Lewis. He will, won't he? Because yes, he didn't have the fastest lap. The fastest lap went to James Harris, I think, in the end. But we'll get that confirmed afterwards when I get the official results, because that is worth an extra couple of points as well. But a fantastic drive that from Brian Chandler, and he judged it to perfection. Eventual winning margin of 3.8 seconds. Ben Tuck in second, Darren Lewis third, Martin Short fourth, Ben Short fourth, and Richard Breland rounding out the top 5. Well, I need to sit down after that one, I think. We've got plenty more coming your way. The Excool OSS cars are out next. Here's confirmation of the result. Chandler with the win. Ben Tuck second, Lewis third, Short fourth, Breland fifth, as I said. James Harris is sixth, Martin Tolley seventh, Paul Bishop 8th, Simon Goddard 9th, and Paul Tucker rounds out the top 10. Then John Hughes, Paul Bateman, Adam Bessel, Clive Powell, Gary Hufford, Ollie Allwood, Adam Craig, Harry Dean, Simon Woods, and Michael Fisk round out the top 20 finishes. The bottom 5 finishes, incidentally, were Courtney Mills, Kevin Brent, Graham Colby, the number 5 car of Richard Collins, and of course Simon Baldwin, who was a non-finisher. They'll all be demoted to the B race later on this afternoon. So, first race is done with, and now we turn our attention to sports cars of a slightly different kind. The Excool OSS Championship will be out next, and they will have their first 20-minute race of the day. They didn't race yesterday, so this is their ultimate round of the championship. They'll be out next. First race is done with. They will have their first 20-minute race of the day. They didn't race yesterday, so this is their ultimate round championship. Will be out next. Is done with. Next. They will have their first 20-minute race of the day. They didn't race yesterday, so this is their ultimate round championship. Will be out next. Is done with. Next. They will have their first 20-minute race of the day. They didn't race yesterday, so this is their ultimate round championship. Will be out next. Is done with. Next. So cars leaving the assembly area for our next race of the day. This is the Excool OSS Championship, the Open Sports Car Series. And this is one of the fastest and noisiest championships in the UK. And it's got a big grid of 18 cars here this weekend as well, which is great to see. Good variety as well. So I'll run you down the grid now, which was set in qualifying yesterday. And it is pole position for car number 10. Duncan Williams. Duncan Williams lines up on pole position in his Juno sports car. Alongside him, we have Tim Gray, 96. So Tim Gray, number 96, lines up alongside on the front row of the grid. Tim Gray in his venerable Spire GT3. So 10 and 96 on the front row. Paul Spencer is third in car number 16. Paul is driving a Radical SR8. A lot of Radicals in this race. And number 88, Richard Wise, in another one of Spire. That's the Spire GT3 bike engine car. Number 88 lines up fourth. Number 72 is fifth, that's Graham Hill in his Radical PR6, and 68 Stephen Gore alongside him in an SR3 Radical, so another couple of Radicals on the third row. Row 4 is another Radical, that's number 85, Joe Stables in his Pro 6 Spec Radical, and Richard Ferns, number 42 in his SR8. Row 5 is number 76, Ginger Marshall, who celebrates 50 years in motorsport this year, and his Bowlby Mark II lines up 9th on the grid. Roland Lewis is 10th in number 73 in the Jade 3 Chrysler. Then outside the top 10, 73, Alistair Smart. He is at the wheel of a Radical Club Sport, and 80, Dave Enderby in his SR4. Row 7 of the grid, number 95, Kevin Swenson, 94, which is a car that's being shared over the course of the weekend. I'm not entirely sure who's going to be at the wheel of it for this race, but it's being shared by Matt Domin and Paul Watson. And number 99, Ian Tam at the back, and they're all Aquila Synergies, the 1 litre Aquilas, which have a class of their own. They're in Class E. There are several classes to keep you up to date with as well in this race, with these classes A, B, C, D and E. Class A is where we see Paul Spencer, Steve Donovan, Richard Ferns, Roland Lewis and Joe Stables competing. But the outright quickest cars are Class B cars. Duncan Williams, Mike Genby and Tim Gray, top 3 on the grid, are all running in Class B. So I'll try and keep you up to date with what the various classes are looking like as the race goes on. Championship-wise, Mike Genby is the champion. He's on 202 points, can't be beaten. Ginger Marshall is second, but somewhere down the grid, and he's only 5 points ahead of Graham Hill. So that's quite a good fight for second place in the overall championship. But of course, they're in different classes. Ginger is Class B, Graham is Class C. So it's down to the points you score within your individual class. The same goes for Richard Ferns and Paul Spencer, separated by 5 points for fourth place. Richard is a Class A car, Spencer is Class C. Here we go then, cars coming towards the start-finish line. The pace car will pull into the pit lane. It is a rolling start for the 20-minute OSS race. The green lights, or the red lights go out now, and we are racing, and it's a good start from pole position for Duncan Williams. A bit of a sluggish start actually for Tim Gray in second place. Could allow Paul Spencer through into P2, and indeed it does, and maybe even into third, Graham Hill. But now fighting back around the outside is Tim Gray. He'll try and hold on to third. I think he has. Has he? Yes, he has, just about ahead of Graham Hill, but neither of the Spires got very good starts there. From second down to third for Tim Gray, and fourth down to fifth for Richard Wise. Down through the old hairpin then. We've got a race on our hands now though, because Tim has got to catch Duncan Williams. Duncan was quicker than him in qualifying by several seconds though, so you'd imagine Duncan should really be able to pull away, and indeed he is doing at the moment. But through McLean's then, second place could be where the main interest is. It's Paul Spencer at the moment, Tim Gray is in behind him in third, then it's Graham Hill fourth, Richard Wise was fifth, and I think Steve Gore was still sixth place. They made their way up through McLean's. Yes he is, the number 68 car there in your picture. Good run out of Coppice corner for Richard Wise there, gets himself alongside Graham Hill down the back straight. This is for fourth position. He's on the inside line for the Robert chicane at the end of the straight. He's late on the brakes as well, and Richard Wise just go back through. Fourth place for him then. Race leader is already across the start finish line. Second place then for car number 16, that's Paul Spencer. Here comes Graham Hill though, fighting back on the inside of Richard Wise, and behind Steve Gore is coming under pressure from Joe Stables. So fourth place doesn't change hands. What about behind them? Did Stables get sixth? Yes he did. Joe Stables goes into sixth place then, ahead of Steve Gore. Then it is the number 63 car of Roland Lewis next up. He started 10th and he's come up into 8th place at the end of the first lap. And towards the old hairpin, and there is Joe Stables. sorry, it's Richard Ferns, excuse me, number 42. Richard Ferns has come in 7th place. Labels 8th. So out through the right-hander at McLean's. There is Graham Hill, running in 5th place at the end of the opening lap, and the two Spires swapping over. And is that Tim Gray going slowly? It is. Tim Gray is slowing down. So issues maybe in the Spire camp here, because yes, that number 96 car is definitely slowing down the back straight. So Tim Gray going slowly. Meanwhile, Graham Hill is side by side with Richard Ferns, who goes through. So Ferns is getting 2 places on this lap now. 3 in fact, with Tim Gray slowing down. So it's all gone a little bit pear-shaped there, hasn't it? Let's count them through. Spencer still leads the Williams still leads the way. Then 2nd place now for Richard Wise. 3rd place for Steve Gore. Richard Ferns, excuse me. Then it's Graham Hill, then it's Steve Gore. Into the pit lane comes Tim Gray. And yeah, that car's pulling up in front of his pit box, I can see out of the window. So Tim Gray looks like he's in trouble. So yes, what's confusing me slightly is Duncan Williams' transponder isn't working very well, so it's taking him a while to register. Here's the leader. Spencer is 2nd, Wise is now 3rd, Ferns is 4th, Graham Hill is 5th, Steve Gore is 6th, then Stables 7th. 8th place now for Lewis, 9th will be Ginger Marshall, and into the top 10, Alistair Smart in car number 73. Class-wise, of course, Duncan Williams is leading Class B. This is, the blue car there is Ginger Marshall. He's chasing the number 63 car in front of him with Roland Lewis. And this is for now 8th place essentially with Tim Gray in the pit lane. Ginger Marshall though just dropping back a little bit as they come up through Coppice Corner. So down the back straight they go, and Ginger Marshall dropping back slightly now, I think. It's not really close enough to challenge. Joe Stables is lapping quite quickly, although on the previous lap he was slightly slower than Steve Gore in front of him. That's for 6th place. Closest battle at the moment is the one for 3rd between Richard Wise and Richard Ferns. We started 8th with Richard Ferns and has moved his way well up the order. That is Alistair Smart in the red and black number 73 car. Alistair at the wheel of the Radical Club Sport. In behind him is Dave Enderby. Car number 80, Dave is driving his Radical SR4, so a pair of Radicals, not quite close enough to be called a dice that one, but Alistair Smart it is in the 73 car, making his way down through the old hairpin. There, as I said, Dave Enderby in behind him. Right, yes, here's his battle then for the podium places, and Richard Ferns has gone through. So Richard Ferns has gone past Richard Wise on this lap. Richard then in the Spire dropping off the podium, so we could have an OSS race without a Spire on the podium. That hasn't happened for a little while. Graham Hill is actually catching Wise now as well. Wise is running in Class C, whereas Tim Gray is running in Class B. Tim's car a little bit more powerful, a little bit more tuned up. But Richard is dropping into the clutches now of Graham Hill, coming down through Hollywood. Perhaps unsurprisingly, it is Duncan Williams who has the fastest lap, 103.545. He's now 17 seconds ahead of Joe Spencer in 2nd place. 4th place, excuse me. That is quite remarkable. Rate at which he's extended this lead, but then he was in qualifying good 4 or 5 seconds quicker than anybody else. And it was Tim Gray who was 2nd, so Tim out of the race. Duncan really is never likely to be headed. It's fight for 3rd place though. Ferns, Wise, and Graham Hill. Down the exhibition straight, and Graham is catching Richard, but maybe not quite at the rate he might like. But Richard, it just seems to be slipping into his clutches a bit here, doesn't he? Out of the chicane, onto the pit straight again. Speed down the Kevin Wheatcroft straight and up towards Redgate Corner. Another car going a lap down to them there, that is Kevin Swenson. Richard Wise pitches his way through Redgate Corner, back out onto the daunting and infamous Craner curves, where the downforce of these cars really starts to take effect. Lap record round here overall is a 1 minute 3.397 set by Graham Cole back in 2011. Well, that has been broken. Duncan Williams has just set a new lap record at 1 minute 3.285 his previous lap, and he's lapping within lap record pace pretty much every lap. Doing it in a Class B car as well, which is quite impressive. Graham Hill pitches his way through the right-hander at Coppice Corner. down the straight. So Ferns, having taken third place, is lapping quicker than Paul Spencer in second. So he could yet catch the second place man. That's going to be an interesting one to watch. At the moment, the gap, let's see what it is across the line, 2.7 seconds. It came down again by 8/10 that time. So Richard Ferns is catching Paul Spencer here. Paul at the wheel of his Radical SR8, as indeed is Richard. So two identical cars. Oh, and there's Paul Spencer having to duck his way between two of the Aquilas, which you can see how much slower they go, and it's really holding up Richard Ferns as well, and this could allow Richard Wise to catch him again. So the back markers really getting in the way there down through the training curve. Didn't really have anywhere else they could go, but it definitely held up several cars up there, probably Ferns more than Spencer, I'd say. The gap to monitor here really is between Spencer and Ferns, because that's the one that's coming down. There is Joe Stables in the 85 car next in line. Then two of the Aquilas, that's the 94 car that's the Watson and Dobin shared car. No indication though who's in that car. I think it might be Watson, because his name is appearing first on the timing screen. And in behind him is Ian Tam, and they're fighting over 13th place actually, which is second in Class E, because Kevin Swenson is leading that class quite handsomely. By a whole lap in fact, the other Class E runners. Right, back across the line meanwhile have gone second and third. The gap still came down by 8/10 that time, so it's down to 2 seconds now between Spencer and Ferns. This Aquila battle makes its way rather more sedately through the final chicane across the start finish line. The Watson Dobin car stays ahead of Ian Tam for the time being, but Tam is drawing alongside if he can down the pit straight. Can't get up the inside though into Redgate corner, so the cars make their way through still. Oh, a little look at the inside again there, but no, nothing doing. Back onto another lap to go. Duncan Williams is about to put another lap on them. We'll see how he negotiates them. Look at the speed differential there. The Juno sports car just charges through. That car is absolutely stunning to behold, isn't it? The speed it can take through the corners, quite remarkable. Through Schwann's curve, just to give you an idea, he's already more than half a lap ahead of anybody else, and still the second place cars are only now coming across the line, and they're 1.8 seconds apart now, so it came down by another 2/10. 35 seconds is the gap between Williams and Spencer, the top two. Spencer to Ferns is 1.8 seconds, then Ferns to Wise 1.6, Wise to Hill 1.4, so they're all fairly equidistant, but it is that gap between second and third that is coming down. An eye on Williams though, turns his way back across the start finish line. Just in the background there, I caught a glimpse of Ginger Marshall, who I think has managed to get himself onto the tail of Lewis, hasn't he? Ginger Marshall and Roland Lewis were side by side, I think, down the back straight. Here out of my window, yes, Ginger Marshall's gone through. So Marshall goes into 8th place, Roland Lewis down to 9th. That's a little change that happened a little bit further down the order. And here is the gap between second and third, and yes, it's really coming down now. That's not 1.8 seconds anymore, is it? Remember, the traffic came into play over the last couple of laps. We've got more traffic now as well. That is Dave Enderby, who should be able to negotiate him down the pit straight. It's exactly what Paul Spencer does. Gap now between the two of them is less than a second. It's just under 7/10 now between second and third places. Richard Wise is being dropped in 4th. Is he in danger of being caught by Graham Hill and Richard Wise are lapping pretty evenly matched. In fact, Richard took 2/10 out of him that time. You've Gore there in 6th. Oh, and a spin! A spin for Richard Ferns from 3rd place. Richard has lost it at Redgate corner. What a shame. He was catching Paul Spencer. That was setting up to be quite a good dice, and he's lost it at Redgate. He didn't quite make it into the gravel though. So continues on his way. There he goes, and goes a lap down to add insult to injury. So Richard Ferns is now, well, where did he drop down to? I think he's now 6th, isn't he? No, 7th. Joe Stables went through as well. 7th place then for Joe. Back with the Aquila battle. Still, which is now being led by Tam, isn't it? Ian Tam gone through. Ahead of the Watson and Dobin car. Did that a couple of laps ago, but at the start of the lap, they were 1.2 seconds apart. They're not now. Well, there goes Joe Stables carving his way through the middle. Very entertaining to watch the faster cars coming through, isn't it? Because they're almost comically quick compared to those Aquilas. They're in a class of their own, so they're well entitled to do battle out there on the track. So the lead gap is now 47 seconds. There is the leader. He's stuck behind 3 or 4 back markers coming down the pitch straight. 2 of the Aquilas. The other one was Dave Enderby in the number 80 car. But Duncan Williams on his way maybe to another win. He's won several races this year, but he hasn't competed in every race. So he's down in 7th in the points, but this will move him probably into 4th place in the points, actually. Going into the final race. I don't think he can catch the... Well, he could actually catch for 2nd place in the championship. This could be quite interesting. Through McLean's. Excool sponsored car is leading the Excool OSS Championship, which is appropriate. 7 minutes and 25 seconds remain on the clock for this first race of the weekend for the OSS. They didn't race yesterday, they qualified yesterday, but didn't race. It's Paul Spencer in 2nd place, Richard Wise is 3rd, but less than a second now ahead of Graham Hill. That's now the closest pair of cars on the track. It's for 2nd place, sorry, 3rd place, Richard Wise and Graham Hill. A pair of them separated by just 9/10 at the start of this lap. Richard Ferns, meanwhile, rejoined in 7th and is 17 seconds behind Joe Stables and only lapping about a second quicker than him. But I don't think he's going to catch to gain another place, is he? Which will be a shame. The leader is about to lap Joe Stables as well there in the number 85 car. Joe is running 6th, so not far up the road is that fight for 3rd and 4th. Well, because Steve Gore is only 3 seconds behind them. Out onto the back straight. There's Joe Stables then, 6th place man goes a lap down. Dominating performance this from Duncan Williams. Would have been quite a close race if he wasn't in it really, because second on back are pretty tight, aren't they? 3.2 seconds now between Spencer and Wise. Wise to Hill goes back up over a second, but only fractionally. 1.2 seconds officially is the gap. One of this is troubling Duncan Williams, who's just got to keep picking off the back markers. He'll probably come across the Aquilas again before the end of the race. That's probably his biggest worry. Watson and Doman are back in front of Ian Tam now, and Tam is 9.5 seconds behind them, so he must have had a moment. Or his last lap, yes, his last lap was a slow lap. Williams puts a lap on Steve Gore, who's running 5th. Race Porsches as well at this time. Racing here in the Excool OSS Championship instead this weekend at Donington Park. There he is in the number 68 car. And Joe Stables is catching him now, isn't he? Look, for 5th place. Joe on the previous lap only took a 10th out on the last lap, so it's all been done on this lap. Probably as Steve got out of the way of the race leader, he ended up giving away time to Joe Stables behind him, and Joe is right with him now. Look, so this is the fight for 5th place. Joe Stables is going to try and move through if he can, with less than 5 minutes to go into Redgate Corner. And Joe, in a little radical, sits behind Steve in the big radical, but to be more specific, it's the Pro 6 edition for Joe Stables that he's in. Steve Gore is driving an SR3, one of the more popular radical variants. The old hair, but the lightweight Joe Stables car is quicker through the fiddly bits, but when you get it through some of the high-speed areas, that's where Steve Gore might be able to pull away. Out through McLean's, towards Coppice again. Duncan Williams disappearing out of view, and here is that fight for 5th place. And can Joe do anything in the slipstream, maybe down the back straight? Pulls out of the slipstream, in fact, spotted brake marks. Of course, you sit so low in these cars that you really can't see very well. Sit right up behind somebody, then you risk losing visibility into the next corner. Look there at Roland Lewis, who's now dropped 3.4 seconds behind Marshall after losing that place about 5-10 minutes ago. Oh, dearie me, Richard Wise goes a lap down in 3rd place to Duncan Williams in the background. That was a bit tight. But Williams is going to lap everyone, isn't he? Richard Wise has caught Paul Spencer, by the way. Richard, well, at the start of the lap he hasn't now looked, because Paul in the 16 car, the white, black and red car, is now several seconds ahead of Richard Wise. At the start of the lap, they were only 3/4 of a second apart. Perhaps as Richard has, Paul has caught some back market. I see Paul Spencer getting buckled up behind one of the Aquilas there. And yes, Richard Wise is coming now. Duncan Williams is about to put a lap on Paul Spencer, but then Richard Wise in the silver and orange Spire is not far back. So Spencer goes on the inside of Roland Lewis to put a lap on him. Very confusing this, isn't it? 3 different laps all being represented in the same picture there. The 16 car is running second place though, that's Paul Spencer. And third place is the silver and orange Spire. And then fourth place is Graham Hill, and Graham Hill goes up the inside of Richard Wise into Redgate Corner. And I think he's going to go through into fourth, is he? Well, let's see when they pan through whether he got the move made. Yes, he did. So Graham Hill now goes up into third place, and can he get second? Can he catch Paul Spencer, I wonder? In the traffic, it's really changing the shape of this race and allowing the gaps to really ebb and flow quite dramatically. If it goes the wrong way for you in the traffic, you can lose several seconds. So Graham Hill now goes up into Paul Spencer is about to lap Ginger Marshall as well, about to be lapped by Duncan Williams. He doesn't want to let him through, but he's got to keep pushing to keep Graham Hill some distance behind him. Graham, though, has now dropped back. I think, again, he's hit some traffic. There was an Aquila in the picture there, which I think they're about to lap. Yes, they're catching the Ian Tam car, which is slowly catching the number 94 Watson and Doman machine. Could yet have us change for second in Class E as well on our hands before the end of the race. Duncan Williams into the chicane is about to start his penultimate lap. 2 more laps to go then for the race leader. 2 more laps for everyone else as well. Now Graham Hill is catching, he's back behind Richard Wise, isn't he? So Wise has gone back through somewhere in all of that. So Hill did briefly get third, but now he's back down into fourth place again. The pair of them put a lap on Ginger Marshall, so that's only chance of second gone for Graham, but he could still get back on the podium. That is for the class win as well between Richard Wise and Graham Hill. They're both in Class C. Top 3 cars, all different classes. Duncan Williams Class B, Paul Spencer Class A, Richard Wise Class C. But then Graham Hill and Steve Gore and Joe Stables all Class C. They are 4th, 5th and 6th. 2nd, 3rd and 4th in class behind Richard Wise. There is Paul Spencer then. 2nd place, on for a class win. He's a lap behind the race leader. He makes his way out of Coppice. That's great. And there are Wise and Hill in the background. Can Graham catch him? That's going to be too fast. It was in clear air. I think they're fairly evenly matched. It's only when they hit traffic that it starts to change. Gap there, you can see 6 tenths at the start of the lap. At the start of their final lap, though, it is 1.1. So it almost doubled. Last lap board goes out then. 1 more lap to go. We need to keep an eye on where Duncan Williams is. This is side by side though between Joe Stables and Steve Gore. That's for 5th place. And Stables is going around the outside into Redgate. They're about to catch Roland Lewis to put him a lap down as well, which could complicate matters slightly. Through Redgate, they've gone through Hollywood. Back marker is Roland Lewis, needs to try and get out of the way. Oh, Steve Gore goes on the inside and Joe Stables goes to the outside. Fantastic stuff. Down through the old hairpin. And Joe Stables, wow, committed to try and find a way past Steve Gore if he can. Up towards McLean's they go. Race leader, though, is approaching the end of his final lap. Might have to cut away from this in a moment, which is a shame. Yes, because down towards the final turn is coming the race leader. Out of the final turn is coming the race leader. And across the line is coming the race winner, Duncan Williams. He wins the first race here at Donington Park for the Excool OSS Championship. Second, I think, will be Paul Spencer. Yes, it is. Third, Richard Wise. Fourth, Stables, because where's Steve Gore? Steve Gore has dropped back. So Steve has had a moment somewhere. We didn't see it down at the chicane, but Steve Gore has had a moment. And that was a bit of a shame because he was running in 5th place most of the race, but Joe Stables goes 5th, and that was for 3rd in class. So that knocked Steve Gore off the class podium. So it's Duncan Williams with the win. 2nd place, Paul Spencer. 3rd was Richard Wise. 4th, Graham Hill. 5th for Joe Stables. Steve Gore was 6th. Richard Fearns 7th. Ginger Marshall 8th. Roland Lewis 9th. And 10th place was Alistair Smart. Then Dave Enderby was 11th. Kevin Swenson 12th. The Watson and Doman car was 13th. Ian Tam was 14th. And we lost Tim Gray, who was the only retirement. Class winners, Duncan Williams A, Richard Wise in 3rd, wins Class C. Class D was a class of their own for Alistair Smart, so he wins that class. And then Class E is won by Kevin Swenson. So, It's time for another brief pause, after which we will have more Mazda MX-5 action. Race 2B will be up next. First of all, here's the result though for that race. Confirmation of that: Williams, Spencer, Wise, Hill, Stables, Gore, Ferns, Marshall, Lewis and Smart all in the top 10. Then Dave Enderby, Kevin Swenson, Ian Tam, Matt Doman, and then of course we lost Tim Gray early on in that race for reasons unknown. We hope to have him out for race 2 though, because he is really the only person that could hold the candle in the face of Duncan Williams. So, brief pause now then, and then it will be time for more Mazda MX-5 racing. Early on in that race, cars make their way down into the pit lane again. Mazda MX-5's up next, then it is the Alfa Romeo race. First 2 Alfa Romeo races after that. The Honda VTEC Challenge, some more tin tops then. Mighty Mini Championship will be up to round out the morning's action. Cars make their way down into the pit lane again. Mazda MX-5's up next, then it is the Alfa Romeo race. First 2 Alfa Romeo races after that. The Honda VTEC Challenge, some more tin tops then. Mighty Mini Championship will be up to round out the morning's action. Cars make their way down into the pit lane again. Mazda MX-5's up next, then it is the Alfa Romeo race. First 2 Alfa Romeo races after that. The Honda VTEC Challenge, some more tin tops then. Mighty Mini Championship will be up to round out the morning's action. Cars make their way down into the pit lane again. Mazda MX-5's up next, then it is the Alfa Romeo race. First 2 Alfa Romeo races after that. The Honda VTEC Challenge, some more tin tops then. Mighty Mini Championship will be up to round out the morning's action. So, cars on the grid then for the next race. This is race 2B for the Mazda MX-5 Championship. Race 1B was 1A was 2A, excuse me, was fantastic earlier on, wasn't it? This though is for the cars that were the bottom half of the qualifying session yesterday. The field for the Mazda MX-5 Championship is so big that they have to split it into two grids. So they have an A race and a B race, an A group and a B group. The bottom half of the qualifying results are put into Group B and Group A. On the top half, then, as I mentioned before, we have this promotion and demotion. So the top 5 on the grid for this race are the bottom 5 finishers in the first A race yesterday. So pole position goes the way of Josh Jackson, number 72, alongside him, number 22, Chris Hart. So Josh and Chris on row 1. John Coburn-Evans, number 77, is third, and Roger Chanot will be alongside him, with Sam Smith, who is, remember, was fighting for the championship going into this weekend, but he's down in 5th place. More on that later. Ivan Leary will be 6th alongside him. Row 4 is Christian Young and Steve Craggs. Row 5 for Matt Simmons and Simon Orange. And then outside the top 10, we've got row 6 for 107, Sam Bailey and 99, Patrick Collins. Row 7 is Russ Lindsay and 86, Roman Sarazam. Row 8 for number 10, Ambrogio Confetti and 10, Matt Pickford. Row 9 for Alex Saw and Henry Lawson. Row 10 is Matt Simonite and Piers Chandler. Row 11 for Anthony Hutchins and Joseph Nahorai. Row 12 is number 66, Nick Riley and Chris Mills. Row 13, Ian McDonald and Alex Westgate. Back row of the grid, a 28-car grid, 111 Danny Green and 75 Guy Carter. So the top 5 were the bottom 5 finishers from the first A race yesterday. So the one who should win this is Sam Smith, because he finished on the road, on the podium yesterday. Then he was given a time penalty for exceeding the track limits, and then he was disqualified from the result altogether. For reasons I don't know, but I know he's been disqualified. So the top 5, so he is going to have a lot of work to do from 5th on the grid. But he should have the pace to do it. John Coburn-Evans in the Gulf coloured car, number 77, lining up 3rd on the grid, should be quick as well. I don't know. He's won a few of these B races time. Chris Hart and Josh Jackson strong on the front row as well, so any one of those top 5 could win it, but Sam Smith has started the favourite. He was disqualified, which means he starts 5th, the lowest of the cars that were demoted from yesterday's race. Looks like everyone is there on the grid. I can't see any gaps, so we should be seeing the full 28-car field in the race. Cars then lining up, waiting for that green flag at the back. And then we watch for the red lights, and away we go. It was a quick change. Very good start from Chris Hart from the outside of the front row. It looks as though he's going to get the lead down towards turn 1. Sam Smith's got 2 wheels on the grass already. Not a good move considering he was penalised for exceeding the track limits yesterday, but he's going for 3rd place. Might have to settle for 4th. Goes on the inside of Roger Chanot in the 105 car. I know he does go through into 3rd. Everyone's safety through red gate. That's always an iffy question, but yes, they are all through. And now they head down the back, down the Crane curve. So it's Chris Hart leading the way. 2nd place for Josh Jackson. 3rd is now Sam Smith. 4th place is going to be John Coburn-Evans, because he goes ahead of Roger Chanot as Sam Smith goes for 2nd and gets it. Sam Smith already is into 2nd place and 5th on the grid. I did say he started as the favourite, and he's showing why now through the old hairpin, through Starkeys. And Smith will go after Chris Hart if he can here on the brakes into McLean's. He's already going for it at the inside, as you know. Josh Jackson defending from Coburn-Evans. Again, we've got a 5-car breakaway at the front of the field. Preston streaming through the brightly liveried 21 car there. You saw of Henry Lawson. Can't miss him in the pack, can you? The black with the Dayglow yellow flashes. Just being kicked up. There's a good little battle as well. 67 and 107. That's Simon Orange and Sam Bailey. Simon moving ahead of Sam. The race leaders are side by side, and Sam Smith's going for it at the inside into the chicane. Look, he's alongside Chris Hart for the race lead, and he goes through. So Sam Smith moves the pink and black number 31 car into the race lead. His championship hopes are gone, regardless of what happens in this race, because a race win in this race is not worth anywhere near as many points as a win in the A race is. So even if he wins this one with the fastest lap, he'll only take a handful of points, but still, he can get himself back in the A race, at least finish the season in style. Hart in 2nd, then 3rd place Josh Jackson, Coburn-Evans 4th, Chanot is 5th, Ivan Leary is 6th, 7th place then for Steve Craggs, 8th position for the 50 car of Christian Young, 9th for 9th for Orange and 10th for Sam Bailey. Leading 3 then, getting away slightly. Smith from Hart from Jackson. The old hairpin again. There is confirmation of that result I just gave you. Through the left-hand kink at Starkey's. Here is Smith then into McLean's, already starting to break away, and you can see really the difference here in the A race earlier on. No one could really break away unless they started fighting behind, but Smith is doing this all on his own, escaping up the road from the rest of the field, and really looks like the class of the field, doesn't he? Roger Chanot goes for 4th place, though, up the inside of John Coburn-Evans. Into Coppice, but nothing doing. Lots of screeching of tyres, that's half the course, and that's short 5 racing there, so nothing to be concerned about. Back out onto the back straight they go. Side by side here for 6th position. So this is the 47 car of Steve Craggs trying to gain a place at the expense of Ivan Leary, and he goes through. So Steve Craggs gets into 6th, but remember it's the top 5 who progressed. So he needs to get one more place if he's going to get himself into the A race later on. Across the line then, the fight developing nicely for 2nd as well between Chris Hart and Josh Jackson. But if anyone falls out of this leading quintet, that will open the door for the likes of Craggs and Leary and everyone else to perhaps get themselves into the top 5. It is very, very close though between most of the top 10 cars pace-wise, so it's hard to do. Down through the crane of curves already though. Steve Craggs is getting away, isn't he? He's going after the group in front. 3/10 ahead of Ivan Leary at the start of the lap. That's gone up now, pretty sure. Ooh, out onto the grass there goes the number 50 car. That's Christian Young, Union flag coloured car. Sam Smith leading the way. Chris Hart 2nd. Josh Jackson goes up the inside of him for 2nd place though, and I think he made that stick, didn't he? Did he get through up towards Coppice Corner? They appear over the brow there. Sam Smith, who is 2nd? Yes, it's Jackson. Jackson got through. Hart is 3rd, and Chanot goes 4th. Chanot goes 4th at the inside of Coburn-Evans. And this is allowing Steve Craggs to close in. So those top 5 had pulled away, but now others are coming to join in the fun. Steve Cragg in particular, 6th place, and he's right there with Chanot and Coburn-Evans. So it's really that fight for 4th place, which we need to keep an eye on, because that is where the promotion spots are being decided. Top 3 are fairly safe at the moment. Chris Hart, a bit of a wiggle out of the final chicane. But yes, Coburn-Evans with now Craggs trying to get alongside him here for 5th place towards Redgate, goes to the outside line, cuts back to the inside line again, really make this one stick, this is important. But no, Coburn-Evans keeps him at bay. Behind them though, we saw side by side again between Leary and the number 50 car of Christian Young. Did that one change around? No, Christian stays behind him. Coburn-Evans then, just ahead of Steve Craggs for 5th, but for how much longer? Because you do get the feeling here that Craggs is a little bit quicker through the old hairpin and sits back in the slipstream again now. Down the straight up the hill though, quite a steep hill towards McLean's through Cromp's curve. It's allowing Roger Chanot to catch up, and there goes Steve Craggs for 5th place. Did he make it stick this time? I think he might have done. Let's pan back and see who is in 5th place. Oh, they're side by side again though. Coburn-Evans is back up the inside into Coppice Corner. He's going to try and retake the place. Craggs carries momentum around the outside though, and they'll go door to door down the back straight. Well, they know Craggs gets through. Craggs makes it stick, so he's into 5th place, and now John Coburn-Evans has work to do, because we saw this at Silverstone at the start of the year where he finished 6th in a B race as well. Just missed out on promotion. Chris Hart promotes himself though into 2nd place again, back ahead of Josh Jackson. That's a good move that. The 2 men who started on the front row. And they are still ahead of the usual suspects in Group B really. It's only the fact that Sam Smith's so far ahead that's changing matters. Here comes Roger Chanot as well around the outside of Josh Jackson now for 3rd. And he'll try and get the cut back on the exit, won't he? Cut back up underneath Josh on the run down through the crane of curves, but he couldn't do it. Josh in fact takes the tight line, partly to defend and partly to try and get past Chris Hart as well. So far ahead, through the left part of the crane of curves, and Josh is sort of going to have a go on the inside of Chris Hart. He is, goes back through. Is he wide on the exit? No, nicely done. So Jackson goes back into 2nd, Hart's a bit slow, and Chanot gets alongside him now for 3rd and goes through, I think, up towards Schwantz Curve, who appears in 3rd place. Yes, he's got it, so Chanot goes through. 3rd place then for him. Hart down to 4th, has a little peek at the inside, but can't get through. Craggs is still 5th. Oh, we've got a spin for Alex Saw, who's gone off down at the old hairpin, that looks like. Alex was running in 16th place. He's just lost out to Piers Chandler. Alex spins his way down towards the back of the field. Because there's no demotion in this race. You can't be demoted to a C group, so it's just about the top 5 really. They'll change over to the other grid later on. Steve Cragg's not content with 5th. He's starting to catch the fight for 2nd, isn't he? So we're going to have 5 cars for 2nd place in 4 minutes longer. Out of the chicane. Down towards Redgate corner. And this 5-car group getting themselves very close together now. With that, there are good battles going on as well. We've had some improvement for number 88, Simmons. Simmons started way down the order, didn't he? Oh, car off. Oh, that's number 67. Number 67 is Simon Orange. Now that he was running. He'd had a moment somewhere else, hasn't he? Because he's lapped down there, so he's had a moment at the chicane. Is that? Yes, it is. We've got yellow flags at the chicane, so no overtaking into the last couple of corners from now on either, which could change the complexion of the race slightly. It's one good overtaking opportunity gone. And all of a sudden we've got some gaps appearing here where there weren't before. Because look, Chris Hart has dropped back and forth into the clutches now of Steve Craggs, who really is going quickly. Chanot is right up with the 2nd place man Josh Jackson as well. So there they go, Jackson and Chanot. Then you've got Hart and Craggs 4th and 5th. Blue and black number 22 of Chris Hart, the black and white of Steve Craggs. They've dropped John Coburn Evans now, so they're all fairly secure in the top 5. Towards the chicane where there are yellow flags, so no overtaking. That's because of the Simon Orange car that parked in the gravel trap. We're ticking down towards half race distance, 11 minutes and 10 seconds left on the clock in this penultimate round for the Mazda MX-5 Championship. It's 2B. Onto the brakes into the first corner. No changing around there, but it is getting nice and close, isn't it? For 2nd place, look, Roger Chanot and Josh Jackson, and then Steve Craggs gets his way up alongside Chris Hart, and he's through. Jackson's gone 4th now then, so Hart drops down to 5th. Can't afford to lose another place, otherwise he will drop down in, or he will not be into the A race for the finale later on this afternoon. 7.9 seconds, by the way, nearly 8 seconds is the lead for Sam Smith. And checking with a few of the cars running a bit further down the order. You can see the green flags there at the chicane because of the car that is off at the final corner. Cars on screen there. We've got number 85, that is Ian McDonald, and then 82 in behind him. 82 is Ross Westgate, the S Motorsport car. Rookie cross, novice cross on the back of his car to say that he is a relative newcomer to motor racing. Back with the lead, or the 2nd place fight I should say. Josh Jackson from Roger Chanot, and don't count out Steve Craggs here. Steve Craggs started 8th, didn't make much progress off the line, so he's done all of this the hard way really as the race has gone on, overtaking people left, right and centre, and he's now closing in on the fight for 2nd place. Down towards Redgate they go. Jackson's fairly secure, but it's nose to tail for 3rd. Chanot to Craggs. Can Craggs have a go maybe on the brakes into Redgate? No, didn't go for it. Couldn't be much closer though. That's less than an MX-5 length between them. Chanot has a bit of a wobble as he gets on the power. These cars, remember, are rear-wheel drive, and although they're not all that powerful, they can still be a bit tail-happy sometimes. They don't run on a slick tyre either. Chris Hart has dropped back all of a sudden. Has Chris Hart got a problem? Yes, Chris Hart is going slowly. Chris Hart is going slowly in 5th place, and this is crucial because he could lose his promotion spot. So, is Chris Hart in trouble then? Down in 5th position. And yes, he's dropping way back. Has he been passed by John Coburn Evans yet? There goes the group in front. We'll pan back and see. Well, there is Chris. That car's definitely off the pace. But Coburn Evans is so far back, he hasn't yet caught him. This will be a slow lap though for Chris Hart. Meanwhile, 2nd, 3rd and 4th go back out through Coppice corner. Again, it's about the fight for 3rd really, because Steve Craggs has now caught Roger Chanot down towards the yellow flag zone, unfortunately. It's chicane, where I'd imagine there's a live snatch vehicle at work trying to clear the car out of the gravel. Yes, they can just see the recovery process being done. Oh my goodness, look at this. This is Piers Chandler. You've got Sam Bailey in there. Pickford's in that mess as well. So is the 125 car of Simmons. Plenty of cars. They're going 3 abreast, look, down towards the chicane, which is still under yellow flag conditions, I think. Into the right hander they go. That's Patrick Collins losing a place in the 99 car to number 16, Matt Pickford. And then getting it straight back again on the exit. So the green flags are back in there. Those are the yellow flags are as well. But look at this, 3 abreast down towards Redgate Corner. Number 21 is in there as well, which the car I mentioned before, Henry Lawson on the outside. How's this all going to shake itself out? Piers Chandler gets sideways. Oh, and big contact there with Michael Lawson, and another car spins as well. So you could see that coming, couldn't you? They were really getting very, very close together. And unfortunately, Henry Lawson is well off the road, but there was another car spinning as well then. I didn't quite say, oh yes, dearie me. Piers Chandler's involved, so too is the 86 car of Roman Sarazan. So that, yes, that ended badly, and the yellow flag's are out. That may be a safety car issue perhaps. So some of them survived. You can see the 16 car is there, Matt Pickford, he got through all of that, but he was the other car I saw spinning. He spun off to the inside of the track and then rejoined, obviously, but some way behind. Then Lawson continued as well. You can see him there. Henry Lawson still going, despite making serious contact with Piers Chandler. There's the 160 car getting eased out wide. That's Chris Mills losing a place. And I think we're going to go safety car, are we? Yeah, safety car boards are out. So Sam Smith will lose his 12-second advantage at the head of the field. So the safety car is called for, and Sam Smith will lose that gap. Josh Jackson is second. Steve Craggs had got past Roger Chenot in all of that as well. Whilst that was all going on a bit further down the order, Roger Chenot has lost out to Steve Craggs. Chris Hart was still 5th, and he was 4.9 seconds ahead of John Coburn-Evans. That will now disappear as well. And if we do go racing again before the checkered flag comes out, that could be pivotal. So you can see the reason for the safe car. Obviously 2 cars. Piers Chandler's car is very badly damaged. That's going nowhere. Rear left corner not pointing the right direction at all, and I'd imagine that car might not be out for the race later on either. Through the old hairpin, the cars are coming. So Sam Smith, I wouldn't think he's too worried about this. The interesting thing I find is he doesn't have the fastest lap. The fastest lap actually belongs to Stuart Simmons. Stuart Simmons is actually the man who set the quickest lap of the race, 1:26.525. So that is surprising. Simmons is down in 7th place, but he started. Simmons start some way down the order, I'm imagining. Fastest lap actually belongs to Stuart Simmons. Yeah, Simmons was down in the midfield on the grid, so he's really carved his way through the field. And yeah, so he's now up into 7, and he'll catch Coburn-Evans and Hart now. So that is really important to watch out for. When we go racing, number 88, that's Simmons. Stuart Simmons, excuse me, will be in contention maybe to take top 5 position. The medical unit is down there just to check the drivers are okay. They're both out of the car. So they have fortunately had a pretty serious coming together, so there'll be a mandatory trip to the medical centre just to check them over after this. Only 4.25 minutes to go. We may not get this started again. We'll have to wait and see. We might get a lap at the end, a 1-lap dash for the cash, so to speak. The yellow flag's waving, lights on the safety car. No overtaking, of course, then for the time being. Sam Smith looking to get himself back in the A race for the end of the season, for the final race. But he'll want to watch in that A race if he gets through, which he should do, because he will carve his way up towards the front runners in no time at all, I imagine. So the recovery process going well there. Piers Chandler is having his car towed out of the way. They're waiting for Roman Sarazan's car to move though. That is Roman's there. He's had a pretty significant frontal impact there, hasn't he, with the rear of Chandler's car by the looks of it. So 3 minutes and 10 seconds to go. Safety car laps are, of course, quite slow. Very slow. 1.5 minutes slower than a standard lap, so they struggle to get any more racing done. I think we might get one lap. That will be it. I don't think we'll get many more. Gives us a chance to admire some of the weird and wacky liveries, though, doesn't it? There is, pick out the Stuart Simmons cars, the white, red and black car just behind the Gulf-coloured car of John Coburn-Evans. We do go racing. He needs to gain 2 places to gain promotion to the A race. That's actually the car that was raced by Charlie Charman last year in the Mark 1 Championship. Charlie, though, had moved on to the MX-5 Super Cup part-time this year, and we hope full-time next year. Control the car. So, Stuart Simmons took ownership of it to the A race. That's actually the car that was raced by Charlie Charman. He is now the man who is pedalling that car pretty quickly, actually. He's got a lot quicker as the season's gone on. Moved on to the MX-5 Super Cup. Right, still then flashing on the safety car. I'm going to look out my window towards Redgate. Yes, there's still a recovery process going on up there, so I think we may be done. This may unfortunately end under the safety car, which would be a real shame, because it was setting up then to be an interesting race. Well, it had been an interesting race, but it was setting up to be extra interesting then. Minute and 3/4 to go. They're heading out onto the back straight. The lights are going to go out on the safety car. They have to go out pretty sharpish, but there's still marshals and a recovery truck on the track, and there you can see the medical unit as well. It's still on track, so we definitely can't go racing this time. That will be it, because we don't have enough time to get around even at race speed now and complete another lap. So it looks as though Sam Smith, Josh Jackson, Steve Craggs, Roger Chanot and Chris Hart are all going to get themselves through to the A race later on. The track is now clear at Redgate, but of course we've still got this ambulance going around the track, so the lights will have to stay on the safety car. It comes through, we're going to get the checkered flag. Yes, we're going to get the checkered flag a lap early, so saves them going around slowly again. So, not quite the way we wanted the race to end, but nonetheless it's the way that Sam Smith wanted it to end, with a race win. And Sam takes the checkered flag. 2nd place for Josh Jackson, 3rd for Steve Craggs, 4th Roger Chanot and 5th for Chris Hart. John Coburn-Evans then. Unfortunately, we didn't get to see what Stuart Simmons could do. And Ivan Leary, Christian Young, and number 17, Russ Lindsay, round out the top 10. So the race ends in the safety car, and they are, as I said, the top 5. Smith, Jackson, Craggs, Chanot and Hart will all progress into the A race later on. So, dramatic end to that race 2B for the Mazda XR Championship. Would have liked it to have gone racing again there at the end, but of course safety has to be a priority. And so, race ends in the safety car, and they are, marshals needed time to clear the track, and medical crew needed time to get the drivers back to the medical centre just for their check-up. Sam Smith, though, is the race winner. Completed only 11 laps in that one because of the safety car. Is a race win nonetheless, and it gets him onto the grid for the A race later on. His championship hopes, which were very good coming into this weekend. Remember, he came into this weekend tied for the lead with Darren Lewis. Unfortunately, it's not going to work out that way for him, is it? Championship hopes, which were very. So here are the results. 8/10 between Sam Smith and Josh Jackson. Then Steve Craggs was 3rd, Roger Chanot 4th, Chris Hart 5th, Coburn-Evans 6th, Stuart Simmons 7th, Ivan Leary 8th, Christian Young 9th, and Lindsay 10th. Then Matt Simmons, Sam Bailey, Ambrogio Perfetti, Bruce Carter, Nick Riley, Danny Green, Pat Collins, Henry Lawson, Alex Saw, and Matt Pickford round out the top 20. Anthony Hutchins, Chris Mills, Matt Simonite, then a lap down for Ian McDonald, Ross Westgate, Joseph Nahurai, Pierce Chandler, of course, was involved in that crash, so too was Roman Sarazan. Simon Orange's race ended in kitty litter at the chicane. Cars are making their way down towards the paddock again. The next cars out will be Tin Tops, the BRSCC Alfashop Alfa Romeo Championship. Will have their first of 2 races. They'll be the next cars out on track. And once all cars are in, the recovery process can be completed at gate. Elsewhere around the track, you can see the recovery trucks heading up that way now to get the track cleared so that the Alfas can go out. So we might just have a little bit of a delay before they make their way onto the circuit, but hopefully not too long, and then we will be racing for the penultimate time this year for the Alfa Romeo Championship. The recovery process can be completed at Red Gate. Elsewhere around the track, you can see the recovery trucks heading that way now. So the track trucks make their way towards Red Gate. Marshals are ushering the cars down into the pit lane, and a few of them a little bit war wounded at the end of what has been a bruising year of Mazda MX-5 racing, but that's just the level of competition we've had, really. It's been so competitive. Huge grids, but a good strength in depth as well. That's why we've come into this weekend with still 5 drivers mathematically with a chance of winning the title. That's slimming down now, though, to really just 3 of them. We'll go down to the wire with race 3A later on. That will be up at about 3:10. Race 3A this afternoon. So this afternoon we'll have another 2 Mark 1 races, race 3A and B. We'll also have the MX-5 Super Cup's final round to the Super Mighty Mini Championship. The OSS will back out, so too will the Alfas, and we'll end on the VTECs at the end of the day. We'll give you that later on. So we'll go to a short little break now, and we'll be back in a few minutes with the Alfashop Alfa Romeo Championship's penultimate race of the year. We'll also have the MX-5 Super Cup's final round to the Super Mighty Mini Championship. The OSS will back out, so too will the Alfas, and we'll end on the VTECs at the end of the day. We'll give you that later on. So we'll go to a short little break now, and we'll be back in a few minutes with the Alfashop Alfa Romeo Championship's penultimate race of the year. We'll also have the MX-5 Super Cup's final round to the Super Mighty Mini Championship. The OSS will back out, so too will the Alfas, and we'll end on the VTECs at the end of the day. We'll give you that later on. So we'll go to a short little break now, and we'll be back in a few minutes with the Alfashop Alfa Romeo Championship's penultimate race of the year. We'll also have the MX-5 Super Cup's final round to the Super Mighty Mini Championship. The OSS will back out, so too will the Alfas, and we'll end on the VTECs at the end of the day. We'll give you that later on. So we'll go to a short little break now, and we'll be back in a few minutes with the Alfashop Alfa Romeo Championship's penultimate race of the year.
Please.
Today, and we have a very interesting battle in front of us with a championship still to be wrapped up, of course.
So welcome back then, it's time for our next race. This is for the BRSCC Alfashop Alfa Romeo Championship. Another 20-minute race this, and another multi-class race, a bit like we saw in the OSS race before. This one, of course, for tin tops. The Alfa Romeos have got another big grid, 26 cars here this weekend. Great to see with them reshuffled their class system to simplify it a little bit this year, so there are only 3 classes. Got the modified cars, Pro Power Trophy and Twin Spark class. The Twin Spark class, they are the cars who tend to fight in front of the championship because there are more of them, so you can draw more points within your class. And the modified cars, the Power Trophy cars, they tend to be cars at the front of the field taking the outright race wins. Delectable Alfa Romeos out there, keep weights 75 you saw going through there. Ray Foley in car number 3, 156 GTA. Already through the full grid in a few moments' time, but it's a spectacular sight that they can, as you expect, Alfa Romeos. They require a lot of care and love and attention, but the owners are more than happy to give them all of that. Got packed grid, a few interesting cars out there as well, ex-British touring cars and such like. All there scrolling through the screen. So, running through the grid now then, and it is pole position for 53, Graham Seeger. Seeger in his GTV was quite a bit quicker than anyone else in qualifying yesterday, actually. Here we are. There we are. Graham Seeger on pole position. Barry McMahon alongside him. And Barry in his 156. Then James Nichols will be on row 2, number 14, with Chris Snowden alongside. Andy Robinson and Vincent Dubois, row 3. Keith Waite and Ray Foley, row 4. Ron Davidson is on row 5 alongside Brian Shrub. James Ford is on the 6th row of the grid. Andy Hancock, Matt Daly and Tom Hill. Then David Messenger and James Browning. Josh Lambert, Richard Stevens, Steve Potts and James Bishop round out the top 20. Andy Inman is next up. And then was back in the field, Andrew Bork, Jeremy Chilton, Paul Webster and Michael Donahue. Barry McMahon lines up. That is an ex-British touring car that he lines up in, and as 2 is the car behind it, the James Nichols machine, 147. It's an ex-factory Alfa Romeo that raced back in 2001 in the British Touring Car Championship. Back in the field, cars start in 2 groups as well. You've got the top 10 cars will start at the front. They are the modified and Power Trophy cars. Twin Spark cars then start separately. And they have a few rows gap in between, so you can just about see that there. The front row of their grid is James Ford and Andy Hancock. Graham Seeger leads the championship by 8 points over James Bishop. So we'll have to watch how they both get on in their individual classes. Graham Seeger, of course, starting on the pole position, looking good perhaps for a race win, with James Bishop starting some way down the field. So here we go then. We have green flag at the back of the field. We're almost ready to go racing then. It's Graham Seeger and Barry McMahon, row 1. James Nichols and Chris Snowden, row 2. Andy Robinson and Vincent Dubois, row 3. The red lights go on. They go out now after a fairly lengthy hold. It's a decent jump from Barry McMahon, but it's a very good start from Chris Snowden. And Chris Snowden from 4th on the grid is trying to go around the outside of both the front row men towards Redgate Corner. Gets squeezed out by McMahon though, so Seeger will take the lead. James Nichols moves into 2nd, then it's McMahon 3rd. Side by side between Snowden and Andy Robinson through the corner. Vincent Dubois is a little bit slow, contact back in the pack. Barry McMahon has been off the track, look up in front, there's more pushing and shoving back towards the rear of the field. They all somehow get through, but yes, Barry McMahon is down in about 5th place, I reckon, coming down through the Craner curves for the first time. We'll sort it all out in a few moments' time, because as you can see, there's a lot of shuffling going on. There are the leading Twin Spark cars. Looks to me as though James Ford is leading the way ahead of, is that Tom Hill? I think Tom Hill's come through from 4th on the grid into 2nd in the Twin Spark group. There is Graham Seeger, though, no doubt about him leading the race. Who's 2nd? 2nd place now is Andy Robinson from 5th on the grid. Andy Robinson's got himself into 2nd position. Then 3rd place looks like it was James Nichols still, wasn't it? Just in behind him. There is the twin spark. Yes, it is James Nichols. Then it's Chris Snowden, who had that good start. And dropped back a little way. Oh, there's Chris Snowden, so that must be Ray Foley up there. So we'll count them through at the end of the lap then. Ray Foley's dropped down the order as well. He's had a bad start, so there's lots of shuffling went on in that first couple of corners. There's a lot of contact as well. There's Barry McMahon with a lock-up at the final chicane, ends up over the curb into the ground of the car. Hops and skips over the sausage curb. More ground is lost. So Seeger leads the way. Second place is Andy Robinson. Third is Brian Shrub. Brian Shrub is third. He's just gone ahead of James Nichols. There's a lot of smoke now coming from the back of Barry McMahon's car, I'm afraid. So that car looks like it may be going not much further. So it's Seeger, Robinson, Shrub, Nichols. McMahon was fifth at the line. He's lost it. He's about to lose out to the 63 car, isn't he, of Daly. Matt Daly in car number 63. Then we've got the twin spark lot behind. Matt Daly, in fact, leads the twin spark group. Then second place is the 23 car of James Ford. It's Dave Messenger who's third in the twin spark group. There is the recovering Chris Snowden. Didn't see what happened to him, but he and Barry McMahon were close together going into Redgate Corner on the first lap, so I wonder if that's what happened there. Meanwhile, Brian Shrub is now second. Brian Shrub and Nichols there, James Nichols, have both gone ahead of Andy Robinson. Robinson did qualify behind both of them, so perhaps no surprise, but they've both gone through on this second lap. Brian Shrub started 10th on the grid, but he had issues in qualifying. He only completed one lap. He was the slowest qualifier, but when the car works, it absolutely flies. His Alfa 33 16-valve car is into second place. What can he do about Graham Seeger, I wonder? Perhaps he doesn't have the pace to go after the race leader, but he certainly is fighting for second place. He was slow out of the chicane, though, and so now James Nichols gets back alongside him towards Redgate Corner. Bit of a lock-up, big lock-up for Graham Seeger into Redgate Corner, gets it turned in, but lost a lot of ground. Second place is still Brian Shrub. Third place is James Nichols. Robinson is fourth. McMahon is still running fifth place, but still smoky. And Snowden is now up into sixth place, already ahead of all the twin spark cars, which are still led by Daly. James Ford is second, Dave Messenger third, Bishop in fourth position. So James Bishop is fourth in his class. Graham Seeger is leading his class, but there are only 2, 4, 6 modified cars in the race. So the race leaders back at McLean's, and it's Shrub second place still, with Nichols third. There is McMahon. He's still going, but there's still a lot of smoke coming from underneath that car. I hope he's not dropping fluid. He's about to be caught by Chris Snowden in his Alfa 75. There's James Ford. This is the fight for the lead in the twin spark class. He's caught up now to the 63 car of Matt Daly, and he's going to try and get through maybe on the back, run down the back straight. Much more aerodynamic shape is 156. He cuts up the inside. James Ford gets alongside him now down the back straight. This is for the lead in class, and if he can make this move stick, can he then pull away? Well, let's see if he can make it stick first. He's on the inside into the chicane. Very late on the brakes though for Matt Daly. He's going to try and turn in, is he? No, he realised he has to leave the door open, and James Ford goes through. So Ford into the class lead then. Daly down to second. It's Dave Messenger still running in third, with Bishop in fourth. James Bishop really needs to try and improve his position here if he's going to take the championship. Side by side again though into Redgate Corner. Look, Matt Daly goes to the outside of James Ford, but Dave Messenger was there, ready and waiting to seize the opportunity if he could, and Bishop is now right there with them. Look, Bishop in the silver car, that's the man who is second in the championship, but as I said, it's all down to the points you score in your individual class rather than the overall result. So Seeger is leading his class, Bishop is only fourth, so he needs to make some ground up here. Down into the old hairpin. Bishop in behind Messenger then, through the left-hand kink at Starkey's. The left-hander at Schwantz curve as well now, and can Bishop get away through? He looks quicker. He's still the 156. Car number one, the reigning champion, James Bishop. Decent run out of there, looks to the inside, looks back to the outside. Messenger's defending nicely, someone's in the dirt behind them as well. I noticed they're being caught, aren't they, by the number 78 car. Number 78 is Tom Hill, who started way down the order. Now here's the fight for second place then. James Nichols goes back up the inside of Brian Shrub. He's going to go through into Redgate. Now is this Shrub's mechanical dramas returning? I wonder that he had in qualifying yesterday. Certainly not going as quickly now as he was earlier on. His previous lap, his best lap's 22 23-0 to 23-3, but he's dropping quite considerably behind James Nichols now. Nichols into second place, then you've got Shrub there in third. He'll be, I'm sure, trying to just nurse that car home, really, because it's not been the best behaved car all weekend. There's Graham Seeger, just set, he set the fastest lap a few laps ago, but his previous lap was a second and a half away from that, 1:22.529. Always have to worry about mechanical issues with these cars, and you often see dominant race leaders struck down by mechanical gremlins late in the race, so you're never out of the woods, no matter how comfortable your lead is. So Seeger may be pulling away. We'll see if James Nichols, now he's in second place in a much newer car, can close in maybe. Grubb in third is making his way quite sedately down into the chicane there. Fourth place is Andy Robinson. What's going on with the twin sparks this time, I wonder? James Ford is ahead of Daly, so he did make that move stick somewhere, did James? Here is the rest of the twin spark group further back, but crucially James Bishop is dropped behind Hill now. Hill is now fourth in class. Look, here we are side by side. That is a recovering Vincent Dubois. He's not a twin spark car, he's one of the modified machines. He's got past about 3 or 4 cars on this lap already. Remember, he went off, of course, in contact in the first corner. So yes, Tom Hill, car number 78, they're moving up the order nicely. That's the black and gold car there going through the picture. There is James Bishop. He's now coming under pressure from car number 18 behind him. That's the Hancock car, Andy Hancock. And he is coming under pressure at the same time from car number 4, which is the Keith Waite machine. Keith is running in the Power Trophy, and in fact he goes through. So Keith Waite got through then going into the outer Redgate corner. 13th place he was, now 12th. Andy Hancock. He's runner again. Twin spark class. There though is James Ford, having got into the class lead. He's racing away from this almighty battle for second place. Still, it's Matt Daly who has it. Really having to watch the mirrors. Dave Messenger, Tom Hill right with him, and now, yeah, James Bishop's back with them as well now. Look, so they've bottled themselves up a little bit there as Vincent Dubois went past them, and James Bishop has now caught up to Dave Messenger again. He's having to watch his mirrors though, because there is Waite. Keith Waite in the Power Trophy car. He doesn't need to race him for points here, does James, but he doesn't really want a car getting between himself and his fellow twin spark runners in front of him. Oh, big moment on the brakes there for Tom Hill. He's going to run in too deep into the corner. He does, but he keeps it away from those curves, crucially, which is what Barry McMahon was able to do before, because that's maybe what caused that smokiness from the car. McMahon has pulled off, I believe. Yes, McMahon has disappeared from the race. I think he's called it a day with all of that smoke coming out of the car, so everyone else is promoted a position. Out wide again there for Tom Hill, so pushing hard is Tom as he tries to get in touch for maybe a podium position here. McMahon has Tom not in the top 10 of the championship, so that shows that this is a better run than he's perhaps used to. Matt Daly then just ahead of Dave Messenger, that's the fight for second place in the class. There, number 21 now joining in the fun is Steve Potts. So we're getting 6 or 7 cars here, getting nose to tail, fighting for second place in class. Overall though, Seeger is being caught by James Nichols. Look, now James Nichols is only 8/10 behind Graham Seeger, so as good as this battle is, it's worth checking in with that, I think, at the front of the field, maybe over the next lap or so, to see if James can pass Graham Seeger once he gets there, because he has been closing in. Seeger just set the fastest lap though, actually. He's extended it back out to 1.3 seconds, so 1 minute 20.722 was his lap time. He's now 1.3 ahead of Nichols, who himself did a personal best lap. Meanwhile, you can see Keith Waite here about to lose out to Dave Messenger. Messenger's gone up the inside, and Waite standing in the car that must be worth quite a lot. Stays well out of the way, doesn't want any pink traded. Scrappers left on his car. Tom Hill gets a bit held up there for. James Bishop closes in on him. That's for 4th place in the twin spark class. Towards Redgate, looks to the inside, looks to the outside. There's Bishop, can he get through? Oh, no, he can't. But look at Keith Waite, he's going to get back alongside Dave Messenger though and try and retake that position. That's for 9th place overall. Doesn't gain him any points in his class, but it's 9th place in the race, and he's carved his way through this group quite nicely as Keith. He must have been caught up in the dramas in the first corner too. I think he saw him out on the grass because he's dropped behind a lot of Twin Spark cars, but he should be quite a bit quicker then. Back with the leaders though, and the gap has come back down again. Now it's only 0.8 of a second now between Seeger and Nichols. Brian Shrub a little bit distant in third place, but we need to see what's going on between the top two. Towards Coppice Corner. And here is the Twin Spark battle again. And oh dear me, Tom Hill looks to the inside of Dave Messenger, can't make it stick. And now the number 41 car is the latest one to join in. That's James Browning. Look, James in his slightly smaller 147. Keith Waite's now up alongside Matt Daly is behind. It's side by side for third place in the class. What's going on behind them? That was Tom Hill who got up the inside of Dave Messenger. He goes through, I think. Tom Hill got up the inside. Did he make it stick? Let's wait till they come back across the start-finish line and we'll find out. Keith Waite's going back ahead of Matt Daly. Yes, so Tom Hill now goes third, and James Bishop, importantly, got through into fourth as well. Dave Messenger could lose out again here because now you've got Andy Hancock going around the outside of him. This is a great battle, but it's not particularly relevant. It's really the fight for third, which is very close. Look, all four of them, they're all in the same class as well. And here are the race leaders down towards us. A car that stopped on the back straight, I noticed there as well, which has unfortunately pulled off the road. Graham Seeger has a bit of contact maybe there with the back marker. And James Nichols will have seen that and will sense here his chance maybe. Graham Seeger has been losing time quite dramatically over the last few laps actually. Nichols is now almost within striking range, 7.25 minutes to go. We're into the second half of what has been a pretty breathless Alfashop Romeo Championship race, and we have a real fight on our hands for the race win overall, as well as the Twin Spark class win. These cars are both running in the modified class. The Power Trophy is being led comfortably by Waite. Keith Waite is a million miles really ahead of the rest of the Power Trophy runners. The other two classes both up for grabs here. Oh, Ray Foley going slowly. Oh dear, that's not good news for Ray. Running in the Power Trophy himself. One of only 4 competitors in that group, Dave Lamboon and Ron Davidson as well, beating the Power Trophy, but they're both some way back. But Ray Foley looks like he might be going quite slowly there. Maybe we're just getting out of the way of the leaders. He's picking pace again now. Dave Nichols though, can he get past Graham Seeger? I mean, he's there, isn't he? But just to get within range, he's not quite close enough to make any moves for the time being. Through the right, with the left onto the pit straight. Here's a good little battle. A bit further back. That's actually for 17th place. And Andy Inman. And just behind him is Lambert, 49. Josh Lambert and from Billinghurst. Both of them are running in the Twin Spark class as well, but a little bit further down the order behind the leading group. And Inman looking to try and defend this place here, but Lambert takes a wide line into the old hairpin. Can't get alongside on the exit then. Nothing doing there. There's number 34 going through as well. That's the that's an addition to the programme, number 34. 34 wasn't included on the grid either, so that car was a late entry into the race. Race leaders overall though are catching those that pack of cars now. This could get interesting. Graham Seeger still ahead of James Nichols. Seeger comes through, but Nichols is definitely there with him now, isn't he? Well, a second or so back now actually as they go through the traffic. Seeger is pulling away. You can see the extra power there at the GTV, can't you? But then locks up, a little bit wide. Got a few back markers between himself and second place man though. Looking at the timing speed, Twin Spark class, Ford has been still dicey with weight. They're of course following the same class. It's now Daly who is second in class, then Hill is third, Bishop fourth, Messenger fifth, and Hancock sixth. That's all more or less how it was then, I suppose, when we left this. Back out of Redgate corner there goes James Nichols. He's now losing ground. He's 1.9 seconds behind Graham Seeger all of a sudden. So he's got 4 minutes 20 seconds left though to try and get back with him. There is this Inman and Lambert scrap. Lambert's back with him again now for 17th place. But within the Twin Spark group, so that's for 9th place in class. So the top 10 position. Get back with the offing here for these two. They're fighting for. gap stretches back out again at that far side of the circuit. MC leads the way now by 1.9 seconds over James Nichols in second. Brian Shrub is third, Snowden is fourth, Andy Robinson is fifth, and not catching him. Being caught injustly by Vincent Dubois. Vincent Dubois in sixth place is catching Andy Robinson. He's still 3.8 seconds behind him for the time being. He is closing in. And we've got Waite now into seventh. Waite's got ahead of James Ford on that lap then, and is pulling weight. Now he's gone through, as you might expect from a more powerful car. Ford is still leading the twin spark class. Matt Daly is 1.4 seconds behind him. All very close to third on back, with Hill third, Bishop fourth, Messenger fifth, and Hancock sixth. Brian Shrub there we see going through in third place. Brian, who, as I said, had that issue in qualifying, will be quite glad. I think the car's still circulating. His best lap was his last lap, actually, so he's getting quicker as well. 121, 131. There is Keith Waite. He's now, as you said, ahead of James Ford, who is still fairly comfortable ahead of Matt Daly. The fight really to watch here is for third place in the Twin Spark group, which is the group just behind these two. There you can see it. Tom Hill with James Bishop determined to try and get on the podium and take a few more championship points here. Because there aren't as many cars in the modified class, Graham Seaton might not get as many points for winning his class as James Bishop would for maybe being third in his class. So this is important for Bishop to try and get through and maximise his points haul here. Right behind Tom Hill coming onto the pit straight. He sits in the slipstream. Hill is having to defend down towards Redgate corner. Bishop looks to the inside. Is there a gap? Is there a gap? Oh, not quite. Has to go back to the outside. And then to make life even more interesting, Graham Seeger's about to come and lap the pair of them. The race leader overall. This could affect the lead gap, which had gone back out to 3 seconds. But if Seeger gets caught up in this, he gets through quite easily, so that's not too bad. Good gentlemanly driving there from Tom Hill and James Bishop. They put their battle on hold briefly to let the race leader through, and now they can go back to it down the hill. Minute and 40 left means this is the penultimate lap of the race. Not long left then for James Bishop to try and get away past Tom Hill. Towards Schwantz curve. All sideways there for James Bishop as he decided for James Ford. He's to lead the class. Matt Daly on the previous lap was practically slower than him. Slow car up ahead, I noticed there, just offline. Getting out of the way, I think, but may have been going slowly on its way back to the pit lane. I think it's getting out of the way, isn't it? Slower runner towards the back of the field. Graham Seeger, fastest lap, as I mentioned on the previous lap, 1:19.6. That record set by Neil Smith in his ex-Fabrizio Giovanardi Alfa Romeo Super Tour, 1:14.8. So we're not getting anywhere near that sort of pace at the moment. Seeger comes through and starts his final lap. James Nichols doesn't look like he's going to get there. What's happening in this fight for third place in the Twin Sparks? Nothing at the moment. I don't think Bishop's going to be close enough into Redgate, is he? Certainly this time Tom Hill doesn't feel the need to defend. There's Matt Daly, second place in the class. Goes to the right-hander over the curbs. Makes his way now down through the Craner curve for the final time. They'll be back out again this afternoon though, so they get another crack at this. This race is anything to go by. There's certainly the potential for race 2 to be even closer, isn't there? A lot of the drivers, certainly that Twin Spark group, they always provide good racing. Cars so evenly matched. Produce good racing naturally, it seems. Graham Seeger could have some stiff opposition from James Nichols in race 2 if James can get the car sorted. I'm suspecting there might be some sort of issue with the car because he's getting quite a bit slower now. Last lap was a 23-second lap. His best is a 1:20.0. So he's 3 seconds off his previous best pace. Now, yes, traffic is coming to play there, I'm sure. He's now 5.5 seconds behind the race leader, so James has lost pace here. So, down towards the Robert chicane for the final time then, and Graham Seeger, the road, is taking the checkered flag. There he goes. Graham Seeger crosses the line, wins the penultimate round of the BRSCC Alfashop Alfa Romeo Championship. Second place goes to James Nichols, just lapping James Ford, who wins the Twin Spark class as well. Third place goes to Brian Shrub. He's crossing the line now in the orange car. Fourth place should be Chris Snowden. Where he is, I'm not too sure. He's only just coming down the back straight now. He's quite some way back, isn't he? Twin Sparks have already finished. Oh, a big spin coming out of the final corner. And who was that rotated then? Oh, it's number 32. That's Lambourne. That's the 32 car of David Lambourne, who was lucky not to hit the wall, and then another car coming into the pit lane very smokily. So I'll try and look out the window and identify that one because it's leaving a huge pile of engine smoke behind it. Oh, big speed coming out of the final corner. It is number 49. Oh, it's Lambert, isn't it? Lambert, who was having that good scrap. Josh Lambert, who was fighting with Inman. So that car, unfortunately, ends the race in the pit lane. Graham Seeger, though, ends the race as the winner. So he wins by 8 seconds in the end. James Nicholls second. From his third. The Twin Spark group went to James Ford from Matt Daly by 1.6 seconds. Then Tom Hill, James Bishop, Dave Messenger and Andy Hancock. The Power Trophy, of course, went to Keith Waite. Second place in the Power Trophy was Ray Foley. He did finish, but a lap down in 19th place. Davidson, also a finisher in that class. We've got 26 cars to the flag. So Andy Robinson into the pit lane as well. Here is the result. Graham Seeger, 8 seconds ahead of the flag. Brian Shrubb is third, Chris Snowden fourth, Vincent Dubois fifth, Robinson sixth, Keith Waite seventh, James Ford eighth, Matt Daly ninth, Tom Hill 10th place. Then James Bishop, Dave Messenger, Andy Hancock, Steve Potts, James Browning, George Osborne, Andy Inman, Stacey Dennis, Ray Foley and Josh Lambert round out the top 20. Ron Davidson, Michael Donoghue, Andrew Bork, Jeremy Chilton, Paul Webster, David Lambourne were all finishers. Barry McMahon was not, and neither was Richard Stevens. Place, then James Bishop, Dave Messenger, Andy Hancock, Steve Potts. So that is the Alfa Romeo Alfashop Championship done for the time being. As I said, they'll be back out this afternoon. 2 more races coming your way though before lunch. The Honda VTEC Challenge is out next, incorporating the Smart for 2 Cup. They'll have a 15-minute race in a little while, and then the BRSCC Mighty Mini Championship, a championship that is going down to the wire with, I reckon, 1 point separating the top 2 in that championship. That will round out the morning's action. It should be done by about 1:05, we're hoping, for the 1-hour lunch break. Back for a full programme this afternoon. So that is it for the time being. We've got a little break now whilst there's a bit of track cleaning to be done. Back in a few minutes' time though with the Honda VTEC Challenge. I reckon 1 point separating the top 2 in that championship. That will round out the morning's action. It should be done by about 1:05, we're hoping, for the 1-hour lunch break. Back for a full programme this afternoon. So that is it for the time being. We've got a little break now whilst there's a bit of track cleaning to be done. Back in a few minutes' time though with the Honda VTEC Challenge. I reckon 1 point separating the top 2 in that championship. That will round out the morning's action. It should be done by about 1:05, we're hoping, for the 1-hour lunch break. Back for a full programme this afternoon. So that is it for the time being. We've got a little break now whilst there's a bit of track cleaning to be done. Back in a few minutes' time though with the Honda VTEC Challenge. I reckon 1 point separating the top 2 in that championship. That will round out the morning's action. It should be done by about 1:05, we're hoping, for the 1-hour lunch break. Back for a full programme this afternoon. So that is it for the time being. We've got a little break now whilst there's a bit of track cleaning to be done. Back in a few minutes' time though with the Honda VTEC Challenge. Welcome back. We are looking forward to our next race. This is the Honda VTEC Challenge, also incorporating the Smart for 2 Cup. It's another race that will have multiple classes. The one thing it doesn't have is a championship battle, because this is a series of races rather than a championship, so there are no points on offer. So it's all down to simply trying to get the best result possible and having a lot of fun as well. So the cars fire up, they head out onto their green flag lap. This is the 13th round of the championship at a 15-minute race, so 5 minutes shorter than all of the other races today. These cars will round out today's action as well at 5:20ish this afternoon. That'll be the last race of the weekend. So cars make their way around. Of course, they are Hondas, apart from the cars racing in the Smart for 2 Cup, of which we have 2, 4, 6, 8, 9 of them here this weekend. But round out today's action as well. So the qualifying session yesterday was pretty close, actually, with the top 2, Hutchinson and Mark Bennett, separated by less than a tenth of a second. So hoping for a close race here. We get going. Smart cars always produce close racing as well, as you'd imagine. Those little boxes, shoe boxes on wheels, really, aren't they? Punch a big hole in the air, create some good slipstreaming battles. Here's the grid then. Stuart Hutchinson and Mark Bennett, row 1. Paul Donkin and Steve Barden, row 2. Jeff Cooper and Matt Walker, row 3. Stuart King and Phil Wright on the 4th row of the grid. Row 5 then for Will Watkin and Ryan Fox. Dunmore and Tony Markham on the 5th row. Row 7 is Paula Webb and Neil Wren. Darren Smee had a spinning qualifying this morning with Martin Kemp on the next row. Row 9 is Martin Clatworthy and Alan Palmer into the Smart cars now. David Nash and James Palmer, Simon Horrobin, Greg Owens, Simon Coverdale and Alistair Woodhead are all in the Smart cars. But again, they will start a little bit detached from the rest of the field. So Stuart Hutchinson then, pole position for him. Honda Integra Type R, alongside him Mark Bennett in his Honda S2000, so 2 very different cars straight away on the front row of the grid. They may all be Hondas, but it can be any Honda, a Civic, an Integra, an S2000, an Accord, any Honda you want that you can come a race in this championship. And row 2, Paul Donkin, who's been out in Atoms, Aerial Atoms this year, and one of the things racing his Honda Civic this weekend. And Steve Barden, 191. Another Civic, got a few Civics next up actually then, because 49, Jeff Cooper, well he's a CRX. Jeff Cooper tends to go quite well in that CRX. Then another Civic alongside him is Matt Walker. Then you've got Stuart King in his Integra Type R, and Phil Wright in his Civic Type R. Then Will Watkin, another Civic Type R, and Ryan Fogt in his Integra Type R. But it is the Integra of Stuart Hutchinson that will line up on the pole position. Mark Bennett alongside, as I said, 71 1,000ths of a second between the two of them. And Peter Dixon had qualified up there as well, but unfortunately he's now withdrawn, we presume because of mechanical issues. So Peter Dixon had qualified within a tenth of a second of the pole position time as well, but he won't be out there unfortunately for this one. So 15 minutes the duration of this race. The cars line up on the front row of the grid. Stuart Viper Hutchinson, who lines up on pole position. Mark Bennett 5, then the Civics next up with Donkin and Barden. Cooper, lone CRX in the field now. Shuffling going on there to try and get Matt Walker into position on the 3rd row of the grid. The Smart cars headed by Martin Clatworthy, and Alan Palmer and David Nash, David Palmer and Simon Horrobin. Well, Simon Horrobin has come out to Fiesta racing actually, racing Fiestas for the last few seasons, but taking a one-off appearance in the Smart cars here in Donington this weekend. Ex-British touring car of Martin Kemp as well, which qualified up there towards the front of the grid, but it's a change of driver now. It's not Martin Kemp in that car anymore, it's Mark, so that car's been sent to the back of the Honda grid. But but that car should be in the mix as well. If he can carve through the field quick enough, then Mark Kemp is really one to watch out for. So green flag waved at the back of the grid then. We're about to go racing. Front of the grid, Stuart Hutchinson and Mark Bennett. Who gets the launch off the line? Front wheel drive or rear wheel drive? Remember, it should be the rear wheel drive S2000 that gets the jump. Let's see. Lights go out, and it is indeed a rocket ship launch off the line for Mark Bennett, and he will get his nose ahead on the run towards Redgate Corner. He gets his whole car ahead, in fact, side by side for second, because Paul Donkin's coming along the outside of Stuart Hutchinson into Redgate Corner. They sweep their way through, and do they all get safely out the other side? A few cars run wide out onto the grass, but they are all safely through. Mark Kemp carving his way through already. I don't think Martin Clapworthy's leading the smart class yet either. I think he's dropped some way back down towards the bottom of the hill, though. It is Bennett leading the way, Hutchinson second, Donkin is third, fourth place for Jeff Cooper in his CRX, so he's had a good start. He's got 1 place to fifth on the grid. Then it is Steve Barden next along towards Schwantz Curve, and McLean's goes the pack then. And this is the fight then to watch at the moment, isn't it? Jeff Cooper and Steve Barden and everyone else. Mark Kemp is already up onto the back of that group. There goes Darren Smee in car number 14, man who's split to the gravel in qualifying at the Crater Curves. Onto the back straight then. And what is happening at the front of the field? Mark Bennett has the lead, but is Stuart Hutchinson able to close him down? I wonder, not at the moment. Oh, but a biffing on Mark Kemp with big contact down the back straight. That was with one of the Accords, and it's punctured the tyre. It's punctured the front right tyre for most. It's pulled the wheel off, in fact. Mark Kemp will not be best pleased with that, but that was one of the risks of coming from the back of the field. Meanwhile, it's side by side for the race lead, because Stuart Hutchinson gets alongside Mark Bennett into Redgate Corner, goes to the outside on the way in. Can he carry the speed right round the outside of the corner? Bennett's trying to fight back on the right-hand side of the road, and Hutchinson, I think, gets through. Bennett still gets his nose alongside, though, on the run down through Hollywood for the second time. Blimey, this is a dramatic start to the race, isn't it? This is bringing Paul Donkin into play as well, still side by side between Hutchinson and Bennett. Bennett surely will have to see, no, goes back up the inside again through the old hairpin and retakes the lead. Lead chase had about 4 times then in the space of 3 corners. Paul Donkin is there too. Then it's Jeff Cooper in 4th place with Steve Barden in 5th. Hutchinson tries again though, up through Schwantz Curve, then up the inside into McLean's maybe. No, still can't find a way through. He's clearly quicker than Mark Bennett, but cannot find a way past the S2000. Up towards Coppice now, he's forcing Bennett to maybe defend again on the run towards the right-hander, but nothing doing still. Then they run towards the exhibition straight again. And a change of 4th place there somewhere. Jeff Cooper lost out to Steve Barden. Barden's gone back through into 4th place. They're also being caught by Phil Wright. But here comes Hutchinson down towards the chicane where there are yellow flags. And they've slowed right down. Are we having a safety car? There are no safety car boards at the moment. The field have really slowed down though into the braking zone. So anyway, back to racing again. That was a bit odd, but Mark Bennett was very slow, very cautious in the yellow flag zone. Didn't want to get pinged for going too quickly. And now Hutchinson and everyone else are right back with him. Hutchinson goes to the outside again into Redgate. Can he get the switch back on the exit of the corner, I wonder? Yes, he's going to try to, but Bennett hangs on still. Donkin having a titanic scrap with Barden as well for 4th. Barden, a bit of a slow burning race this for him, but he's getting quicker now and is up into the 4th position, challenging for a podium. This is one of the best Honda VTEC Challenge races of the year, and they've had a few decent ones, but this is cracking start to the race. We hope it stays this close throughout the rest of the 11.5 minutes. Paul Donkin, Steve Barden fighting over 3rd place, then up towards Schwantz Curve again. Hutchinson tries to draw alongside of Mark Bennett. These two are actually starting to break away now that the 2 Civics are dicing over 3rd place. Those two are starting to just edge clear slightly in the head of the field. Hutchinson on the inside into Coppice. He's earlier on the brakes than Bennett though, so that was never going to work. That brakes on by Fish, will have to be later on the brakes than them, but he takes a tighter line out of the corner, gets himself alongside, and I think he's ahead as they come out of the corner. Hutchinson, I think, has gone through, but was cut away to see the smart cars. But what's happening with the race lead as they go down the back straight? It is, yes, Hutchinson goes through. Hutchinson's through then. Bennett down to 2nd, then Donkin 3rd. 4th place is Barden. 5th place still for Cooper, with Walker there right with them now. So Matt Walker in car number 10 is in 6th place. Side by side they look at Cooper. Cooper's back on the inside of Steve Barden into Redgate Corner. But no, No move made this time. So Hutchinson, 7/10 of a second clear at the end of that lap. Just set the fastest lap of the race, 1:20.930, which is a few tenths away from what he did in qualifying. Bennett is second, Donkin is third, Barden is still in fourth place, fifth place for Cooper, Walker is sixth, seventh place at the moment is car number 73, that's Stuart King. Eighth place then for Will Watkin, who is one of the third place tuner car. Again, different classic production, super tuner and tuner. And it is tuner cars of Hutchinson and Bennett in front of the field. Donkin and Barden, therefore, are fighting for the lead in the production class. Donkin has it, Barden wants it. In fact, Barden's gone through, Barden's crept through, hasn't he there, Miles? Looking further down the order. Walker's just gone fifth as well, past Jeff Cooper. And that's brought King now into play. Stuart King is there. They're already lapping smart cars, and this is where we add an extra element into the race. Trying to negotiate some of the slower runners. He's a bit slow actually out of this game as well, so now here comes King. Stuart King tries to draw alongside. It's meant to have been kicked up further back as well, but the slowest of the smart cars moving out of the way. It is Simon Horrobin, by the way, who's leading the smart class from David Nash, and third place for Alan Palmer. Clackworthy is only fourth. The battle for third in the smart cars is worth cutting to as well, because that was a very close little trio. For now, we've got enough decent battles in front of the field to keep us entertained, haven't we? Jeff Cooper now with King looking at the inside into the old hairpin. CRX though is flung into the corner, maybe an older car, but it's still very, very rapid. It's a shame we haven't got Peter Dixon in this one, because he really can pedal those CRXs very quickly. He's won races before this year in the championship. So Barden is now leading the production class then, ahead of Donkin. Walker is leading the super tuner class, by the way, ahead of Cooper, so that change was for the leading super tuner class, 10 ahead of number 49. 8 minutes and 20 seconds left on the clock. 32 Honda VTEC Challenge races. Someone's in the gravel at Coppice, aren't they? I just heard the screech of tyres and the unmistakable sound of gravel being thrown everywhere, so I think someone just went off up at Coppice corner. Quite picking out in the background of that shot, but yes, you can see the cloud of dust, so someone had been off. So we'll see who drops down the order then. It was just behind that group so someone down towards the back end of the top 10, wasn't it, who will go missing. Waiting for Watkin to come through. In ninth place, is he going to appear? Yes. Dunmore is there. Everyone's still there at the moment, but somebody definitely did go through the gravel trap up there. It's Markham, I think. Markham was on a slow lap, so he might have been the man that went off. Meanwhile, Paul Donkin now 7/10 of a second behind Steve Barden. We're halfway through this race then, 7 minutes and 20 seconds remain. Hutchinson leads the way. Bennett 2 seconds behind him now. And on the previous lap was slower by about half a second. The gap's creeping up now. And there is Steve Barden in third. Paul Donkin fourth. Fifth place for Cooper. For Walker. Now he's the man on the move, isn't he? He is leading his class already, so any more places he gains are against other classic cars. Of course, there are no points to win down here, so he might as well go for it. Chicane they come. There is Hutchinson back out across the start finish line. They're about to catch the rest of the smart cars. Look up ahead. They're having a great little dice. Leaders lapped within a few hundredths of each other that time, so not much change really, but it's the Walker and Donkin battle I wouldn't mind seeing for fourth. Walker still stuck behind Donkin, but only by 3/4 of a second that time. Probably crept up again down through the red gate sequence. So Stuart Hutchinson catching the back of the smart pack then. With the inside now of James Palmer on 3. There though is Simon Horrobin, the race leader in smart cars. Their second place man, number 7, David Nash. A third place battle being lapped now by the overall race leader is Palmer versus Clackworthy. But he can't get back through past James Palmer though. Having started on pole mark for Clackworthy, it's not really been going all that well for him. Mark Bennett coming through, and he's really cut the gap down to Hutchinson now, hasn't he, in traffic? So Mark Bennett, David Nash, making a race of this maybe in the back markers. That lighter, more nimble and agile S2000 will be probably more competitive car. That gap was 2 seconds at the start of the lap. We'll see what it is this time. Probably just over 1 second now. Across the line goes Hutchinson. Now, and there goes Bennett. He's only 3/4 of a second back, actually. It was a slow lap from Hutchinson, so now they're in clean air. He may be able to pull back away again, but Bennett's certainly there. And when you're in the mirrors of somebody like this, especially all of a sudden, then that can make things very interesting. Change for 6th place that time as well, because Stuart King got ahead of Jeff Cooper. So Jeff Cooper losing a place, and it looked like it was getting quite close. I think we might have just had a change for 4th place. I think Walker just got past Donkin. The leaders, though, are nose to tail down through the old hairpin. Top of the screen, though, I think I saw that car number 10, Matt Walker, had moved ahead of Paul Donkin for 4th place. Leading cars there, top 2 in the tuner class are at McLean's, and Mark Bennett's really applying the pressure now. Goes to the outside through the first of these 2 right-handers. The next one is Coppice corner. Then we're onto a straight where Hutchinson seems to have maybe a slight edge, but there's no doubt to me that at this phase of the race, it's Mark Bennett who is the quicker, whether it's in traffic or in clean air now. I honestly expected Hutchinson to be able to extend this margin once they got out of the back markers, but no, he's being reeled in still by Mark Bennett. That gap was 3/4 of a second exactly at the start of the lap. Out of the chicane, back across the start-finish line. Hutchinson, probably a similar sort of gap now, maybe fractionally smaller, let's see. Was 3/4, it's now, when the timer screen updates, I'll tell you. Well, now Hutchinson's transponder isn't working properly, so we'll have to wait. There we go. Yes, 0.87, so it went up slightly that time. Back down the trainer curves, there you go. Then we wait for Steve Barden. He is 3rd. 4th is now Walker ahead of Paul Donkin, but Donkin's fighting back down the trainer curves. He's going back for 4th place, but no, Walker goes through. Gets very, very sideways through the left-hander. That was great car control. Really throwing that pocket rocket Honda Civic around. He's a bit slow out of the old hairpin, and now Donkin gets a good run on him up through Starkeys. He'll try and draw alongside through Schlot's curve. Can he get there? Look in the background. They're overlapping again as they run up towards McLean's. Can he get on the inside? No, but that is a very tail-happy number 10 car for Matt Walker, isn't it? That Civic is looking very loose indeed. He's throwing it around, really carrying tons of mid-corner speed. McLean's, sorry, it's Coppice. The exhibition straight again, running out of time now as well, less than 3 minutes to go. Oh dear, we've got a car off. It's a smart car, and it's Greg Owens, and that looks like it's the old hairpin. The Greg Owens who was running 5th place in smart class is now out of the race. There is Matt Walker. Looks like he might have seen off the attention of Paul Donkin for now. Meanwhile, Mark Bennett has just set the fastest lap of the race. 1 minute 19.651. He takes a 10th back out of Hutchinson. They really are very evenly matched, those two, aren't they? And Stuart Hutchinson cannot rest easy here, because if Mark Bennett gets a chance to come through, he will pounce on it. There is King, who a few laps ago got past Jeff Cooper, but hasn't really managed to escape from him. The great thing about this championship, the cars in different classes are still very evenly matched. That's a production car for King, and it is a super tuner car for Cooper. Jeff Cooper is not able to actually keep pace with the production car. They're driving that from Stuart King. Get back in with the fight, and it is a real dogfight, isn't it, for 4th place. Paul Donkin's now caught Matt Walker again, who is a bit slow out of McLean's. Donkin looks to the inside towards Coppice. Can he slither through on the inside line? He's later on the brakes, you know, and yes, he coasts through. Donkin's back through into 4th position. Walker down to 5th, tries to get the cut back on the exit of Coppice, down the back straight. A bit more power maybe from that car, as the super tuner car of Walker has been tuned, unsurprisingly, as the name might suggest, a little bit more than the production car of Paul Donkin. Paul, who's raced many things this year, including, as I said earlier, an aerial atom. Moving backwards and forwards as they come across the line onto what may be the last lap, I reckon. That'll be touch and go, but I think this will be the last lap that's just begun for Hutchinson and Bennett. They're 9.5 tenths apart in front of the field. So, oh, nobody's going through. Mark Bennett's going through on the inside. Oh my goodness me! Stuart Hutchinson slammed the door in his face then, didn't he? There was a yellow flag there, I imagine, for the stricken smart car, and Bennett had to back out to avoid contact, but also possibly a penalty, and that was very close going into the old hairpin. Bennett now has dropped quite a long way back, but all of a sudden, presumably in traffic, that gap just disappeared. So, through the right-hander at Coppice, down the back straight, and this, I think, will be the final lap, won't it, with 15 seconds now left on the clock, or are we going to just squeeze one more out? We're right on the mark, isn't it, here? Out for the checkered flag at the start-finish line. Hutchinson comes through, 5 seconds left. Checkered flag is being readied, and the checkered flag is being waved, and that is perfectly timed, because as the time runs out, Stuart Hutchinson goes through and takes the checkered flag. Mark Bennett is second place. Third place will go to Steve Barden. Who will be fourth, though? Donkin or Walker? It's Donkin, and he's pulled away from Matt Walker, actually, on that last lap. Walker down to fifth. Sixth place then for Stuart King. Seventh for Jeff Cooper. 8th should be the 99 car of Ryan Fox, then 9th place for Will Watkin, and 10th, I'd imagine, will be number 46, Peter Dunmore. The smart cars, were they close on the last lap? Yes, only 1.8 seconds between Horrobin and Palmer. Palmer and Nash were only 3 seconds apart, though. So they might be quite close when they come across the line as well, but yet to take the checkered flag. But it is a win for Stuart Hutchinson. Mark Bennett pushed him all the way though, right down to the last lap, didn't he? Made that attempted move at the old hairpin on the final lap, but didn't quite work. Out of the window, I can see Simon Horrobin coming across the line to win the smart class, and second place goes to number 26, and that is Alan Palmer. So Palmer hangs on to David Nash in the smarts. So the race finishes with as dramatically as it started, really. It was a very, very good race that, and they're back out again, as I said, at the end of the day for their final race of the year. But Stuart Hutchinson, a worthy race winner, but that race long dice he had with Mark Bennett, we look forward to more of that later on. Here is the result then. Stuart Hutchinson wins it, Mark Bennett second, Steve Barden third, Paul Donkin fourth, Matt Walker 5th, Stuart King 6th, Jeff Cooper 7th, Ryan Fote is 8th, Will Watkin 9th, and Peter Dunmore rounds out the top 10. Paul Webbs, Tony Markham, Darren Smee were all on the lead lap. Neil Wren was a lap down. Then Simon Horrobin wins the smart class. Alan Palmer is second, David Nash third, Martin Clackworthy fourth, James Palmer 5th, Simon Coverdale 6th, Alistair Woodhead, Greg Owens tired from that one, and Mark Kemp, of course, never completed the lap after that contact with Greg on the end of the first lap of the race. Class winners in that one, the overall race winner was Stuart Hutchinson. He won the tuner class from Mark Bennett in second, and third place in the tuners was the 100 car of Will Watkin. The production class won by Steve Barden with Paul Donkin second and Stuart King third, and the Super Tuner class won by car number 10, Walker with Cooper second, and they were the only two finishes in that class. So one more race coming your way before lunch, and it's one you don't want to miss, the penultimate round of the BRSCC Mighty Mini Championship, and it is all to play for, just 1 point between the top two, and they'll be out on track in a few minutes' time. The Super Tuner class won by car number 10, Walker with Cooper second. They were the only two finishes in that class. So one more race coming your way before lunch, and it's one you don't want to miss, the penultimate round of the BRSCC Mighty Mini Championship, and it is all to play for, just 1 point between the top two, and they'll be out on track in a few minutes' time. The Super Tuner class won by car number 10, Walker with Cooper second. They were the only two finishes in that class. So one more race coming your way before lunch, and it's one you don't want to miss, the penultimate round of the BRSCC Mighty Mini Championship, and it is all to play for, just 1 point between the top two, and they'll be out on track in a few minutes' time. The Super Tuner class won by car number 10, Walker with Cooper second. They were the only two finishes in that class. So one more race coming your way before lunch, and it's one you don't want to miss, the penultimate round of the BRSCC Mighty Mini Championship, and it is all to play for, just 1 point between the top two, and they'll be out on track in a few minutes' time. Welcome back. It's time for our final race of the morning then. This is the BRSCC Mighty Mini Championship, and this really is one of the most exciting championships you'll find anywhere in the world. Mighty Minis will run 2, 3, 4 abreast around this Donington Park circuit, with overtaking pretty much every lap. And it becomes a little bit like a NASCAR race sometimes, with fantastically close finishes as well. Yesterday we had our first race of the weekend. Before then, there was an ultimate round of the championship, and Liam Sullivan was the man who took the win by 1.7 seconds over Steve Rideout. Caroline Gilbert was third, Stuart Coombs was fourth, Greg Jenkins fifth, Andrew Dickinson sixth, Penny Jones was seventh, Peter Bonas was eighth, Craig Pendlebury was ninth, and Alice Hughes was 10th. Yesterday now, the result of that race sets the grid for this one. So, but with a reversal, part reversal, they have reversed. Let's have a look. The top 6 on the grid. So the race 1 winner, Liam Sullivan, has to start 6, and Andrew Dickinson, who finished 6th, gets to start on the pole position. So Dickinson and Jenkins, it will be on the front row of the grid. You'd expect, though, most of the top half dozen, maybe more cars, to feel they've got a chance of winning this. First race, top 5 are covered by 3.6 seconds, and there's a big gap back to the rest. That's because we lost Braden Fletcher, and that pretty much sealed the championship. Liam Sullivan will be champion. It's pretty much certain now, with Braden Fletcher, who was his dearest rival, who had a retirement in that race. Cars make their way around then. Braden will therefore have to start from the back. We'll go through the grid in a second, but he will be one to watch in the black and Dayglow yellow number 77. You can see him just at the top of the hill there. Starting not quite from the back, you can see the 3 cars behind him, but 19 nonetheless. It's a big ask, but there's been a lot of ground in trying to get up to front. So, this will be the the final round of the championship. With the championship pretty much settled, we can just look forward to a good race. Here's the grid. Andrew Dickinson and Greg Jenkins on row 1. Stuart Coombs and Caroline Gilbert row 2. Steve Rideout, Liam Sullivan row 3. That's the top 6 from yesterday's race reversed. Penny Jones is 7th. Peter Bonas is 8th. Craig Pendlebury is 9th. And Alice Hughes is 10th. Darren Nightingale 11th. Josh Young 12th. Then Michael Grover and Robert Duke, Jim Carolan and Laura Harris on the 8th row. Row 9 for Morgan Harris, Daniel Horn, and then row 10, Braden Fletcher, 2nd place in the championship. He needs some points to hold on to that, needs to make some progress. Ben Butler is 20th, Alistair Richards and Ivan Carter are at the back of the grid. 10th, Darren Nightingale 11th, Josh Young 12th. Some cars coming round rather slowly towards us, but black and orange car there of row 9 for Morgan Harris, Daniel Horn, Andy Dickinson on the pole position. I like the way that the Mighty Mini drivers often put their names on the front of the cars. It makes them even more, even easier to identify. Nice in position, because they will be swapping positions most laps, and the lead will probably change several times as well, we're hoping. Have the same sort of quality of racing we've become used to in this hugely exciting and hugely popular championship. Out onto the pit straight then, the cars come. The winner from this, very difficult. Liam Sullivan, though, has been almost undefeated all year, but he's had some fantastic, titanic battles along the way as he's tried to get this championship. The Australian driver, Liam. Jenkins on the front row, then Coombs and Gilbert row 2, then Steve Rideout and Liam Sullivan, top 2 from yesterday's race, line up together on the 6th row of the grid. They may be small, they may not be the most powerful of machines, but these 1300cc Mighty Minis produce great racing, and we're looking forward to this one. Last few rows just being shuffled into place there by the marshals. Done. We're good to go with the usual start procedure. Another 20-minute race, this one. Most powerful of machines. Caroline Gilbert's not a bad bet for this one either. Lining up, finished 3rd in yesterday's race. Caroline, there's Gilbert. The white striped car on the outside of row 2. But here we go then, ready for the start. It is Andrew Dickinson and Greg Jenkins, row 1. Stuart Coombs and Caroline Gilbert, row 2. Red lights go on. They go out. Now, and away we go, and it is a good start from both front row men, actually. Dickinson and Jenkins pretty evenly matched on the run towards Redgate Corner. No one stealing any sort of an advantage for the time being. Liam Sullivan's had a good start as well, up alongside Steve Rideout for 5th, but it's 2 by 2 by 2. Noah's Ark formation into turn 1. Greg Jenkins gets the lead around the outside, though. Dickinson drops down into 2nd place, and then is a bit slow out of the corner, and here comes Stuart Coombs trying to get on the inside as well. Bits of Mini go flying in the middle of the pack, but luckily no one else is off the road. So it is Greg Jenkins leads the way. 2nd place Andy Dickinson. 3rd place is Coombs. Gilbert is 4th. 5th place then for Steve Rideout, and Sullivan 6th. So as you were on the grid, but then a change for 2nd. Stuart Coombs goes through on the inside of Greg Jenkins Andy Dickinson for 2nd place at the old hairpin. Dickinson drops down the order then, up towards Schwantz Curve they go for the first time. There is Jenkins. Coombs is 2nd now then. Dickinson down to 3rd. 4th position for Kaz Gilbert. 5th is Steve Rideout, but Liam Sullivan goes on the inside of him and goes through. 5th place then for Liam Sullivan at McLean's corner, and Steve Rideout gets elbowed out wide. That looks like Peter Bonas who's gone through on the inside now, up towards the top of the hill. Yes, it is. Number 23, Peter Bonas has gone through. 6th place for him now then. So 2 places lost there for Steve Rideout in one corner. Then you've got Penny Jones there trying to make a move. Look, on the run down towards the chicane, but again the slipstream takes effect, and Stuart Coombs catches the race leader Greg Jenkins side by side for the lead down towards the final chicane. Who came out of that? It's still Jenkins from Coombs. 3rd place is still just about Dickinson from Kaz Gilbert. And look at Braden Fletcher. Braden Fletcher was 19th on the grid. Where does he cross the line at the end of the first lap? He's nearly in the top 10. 2, 4, 6. He is in the top 10. He's 9th place. Amazingly, Braden Fletcher has passed 10 cars on the opening lap. He's in 9th place. Stuart Coombs, meanwhile, looks to the inside of Greg Jenkins for the race lead at Redgate. Can't get through, though. Side by side for 4th place, meanwhile, though, because Liam Sullivan is attacking to try and gain a position on the exit of the corner. All got a little bit squirrely, though. Steve Rideout buys back into it as well. He and Peter Bonas are side by side, and he tries to recover. Yes, Andy Dickinson drops down 2 places then, because Kaz Gilbert's gone through, and so too has Liam Sullivan. Gilbert now 3rd, Sullivan 4th, Dickinson down to 5th place. Got another 17.5 minutes of this. Yes, I told you they were good races. Down to the old hairpin, there's number 14 side by side, Michael Grover with Darren Nightingale on his outside. Darren tries to fight back on the run towards Schwantz Curve. It's Jenkins and Coombs, the top 2. Here comes Liam Sullivan attacking for 3rd on the inside of Gilbert, but Gilbert gets across to defend. Then Steve Rideout looks at the inside of Andy Dickinson, but can't get through. There is Braden Fletcher, just ahead of Penny Jones now. Absolutely charging through the field is Braden. That puts him now, I reckon, in about 7th or 8th place. Leaders back out of Coppice Corner. Well, I think someone else might have just ended up out in the gravel trap then by the screech of tyres, but race leaders are side by side. Stuart Coombs goes up the inside of Greg Jenkins into the Robert chicane. Can he make that one work? Meanwhile, Steve Rideout, Caroline Gilbert, Peter Bonas, Andy Dickinson, they're all together. Andy Dickinson gets stunk out on the outside line, so Rideout and Bonas both go through, but he gets back ahead of Kaz Gilbert, and there is Braden Fletcher. Braden Fletcher up on the curb is already alongside Caroline Gilbert, really carving his way through the order. He might just get Andy Dickinson as well before they get towards Redgate. He's on the inside of him. This would put him into 6th position, remarkably, in 2 laps from the back of the grid. Though he can't quite get past him, but he certainly goes on the inside of Peter Bonas, who closes the door. Fletcher ends up on the curb, on the grass, gets sideways, drifts out wide, gathers it all together though. He joins just in front of Caroline Gilbert. There's more squirming going on further back, but it is 3 cars for the lead now, because Liam Sullivan is well and truly there with Greg Jenkins and Stuart Coombs. Out towards the old hairpin they go then. There's Braden Fletcher looking at the inside of Peter Bonas, but can't make that one work into the old hairpin. 4 goes through as well. That's the Alice Hughes driven car with Penny Jones. Lots of lady racers racing in the Mighty Mini Championship this year, which is good to see. Race leaders are at McLean's though, and Coombs still leads, but Jenkins coming under increasing pressure now from Liam Sullivan, and as they fight it brings back into play Steve Rideout, Peter Bonas and Dickinson and Fletcher and Gilbert and Jones and everyone else basically. Sullivan up the inside of Greg Jenkins into Coppice. They make a little bit of contact. They're both going to be very slow through the corner. Jenkins cuts back to the inside and Rideout gets to the inside of him as well. Then Bonas is there. Watch for Braden Fletcher going around the outside as well in the black and Daylo yellow number 77 car. This is getting too busy for words. They're 3 abreast down the back straight. I said we'd get 3 and 4 abreast, and we're very nearly there. Steve Rideout, I think, has come out of that on top, hasn't he? He's 2nd place. Liam Sullivan's almost at the back of that group now. It's Rideout 2nd, Bonas is 3rd, then 4th place is Caroline Gilbert somehow. So that really all changed around, didn't it? Leaders are, well, leader is Stuart Coombs, but Rideout is second. Car off the old hairpin. We'll come back to that in a moment to find out who it was. Coombs leads the way then. Rideout second. Third place is Peter Bonas. Fourth place for Caroline Gilbert. That's those two on the screen there. Caroline couldn't quite get through on the run into Redgate. Then it's Greg Jenkins. Then it's Liam Sullivan down to sixth with Braden Fletcher seventh and eighth place for Dickinson. So Fletcher is there with Sullivan now. I don't think that Fletcher can still win the championship, but he certainly would like to go out on a high and beat his championship rival Liam Jenkins if he can, through the old hairpin. Onto the run towards Starkey's, where Starkey's Bridge used to stand, and then Schwantz Curve, named after Kevin Schwantz, or second, half a second between Liam Sullivan and Braden Fletcher. That is down the order, but it was a 1.7 second lead between Coombs and Rideout. Out of coppice towards top of the hill. Greg Jenkins was a bit slow out of McLean's that time. Had to go defensive to try and keep Liam Sullivan behind. It was their contact here a lap ago that really sparked that whole sequence of overtaking off, and it was those two who came off worse. Liam Sullivan, you see a novice cross on the back of his car as well. He is relatively inexperienced at this. The Aussie has really acquitted himself well in this championship. He's up the inside of Jenkins now, and Braden Fletcher's pushing him through, look. Literally drafting their way down the straight. They both, as one, go past Greg Jenkins, but then Fletcher runs a little bit wide. Jenkins tries to fight back on the exit of the corner. No, can't get there. Then it is Andy Dickinson who's keeping himself in the fray. But the leader has been caught, so it took less than a lap for Steve Rideout to get back to the tail of Stuart Coombs with the fastest lap as well to boot. A 1:36.604. He's now only 2/10 behind Steve Rideout. Then Bonas third, Gilbert fourth, Sullivan, as we said, ahead of Sullivan and Fletcher, both ahead of Greg Jenkins on that lap. Oh, Dickinson, yes, I thought I heard a screech of tyres. Andy Dickinson just had a big lose going through Redgate, and he'll lose a couple of places as well now. So Alice Hughes and Young and Craig Pendlebury will all go through. Where's Penny Jones gone? Penny Jones, I think, she's down in the back of the field, as well as Darren Nightingale, who I think is our first retirement. So it's all side by side there. Greg Jenkins was fighting back alongside Braden Fletcher, wasn't he? Stuart Coombs, though, has got the race lead, but Steve Rideout wants it, and he's yet to lead this race. Steve Rideout, Bonas third, then Caroline Gilbert, then Liam Sullivan starting to regroup again after that moment he had. What happened with Fletcher and Jenkins? Fletcher stayed ahead is the answer there. Side by side there, Greg Jenkins through Coppice Corner, back onto the straight again where the slipstream takes effect, and will Steve Rideout try and get past Stuart Coombs for the lead here, or will he decide instead to work with him and try and pull away from that gaggle behind? Gilbert's on the inside of Bonas for third, and she's going to go through because she's being pushed by the championship leader, Liam Sullivan. Onto the brakes now, into the chicane. Liam needs to be careful not to get too close in the braking zone. That was well done. So Liam boosted to fourth, but Gilbert gets himself onto the podium, and they need to really work together now to get after the leading two. Across the line go the leading two, then a car length between them, Coombs and Rideout. Then it's Gilbert third, fourth for Sullivan, fifth for Bonas, sixth place Braden Fletcher now ahead of Greg Jenkins, and attacking now to the outside of Bonas into Redgate Corner as well is Braden. Did that one work? They're still side by side on the exit of the corner, I can see out of the window, and they'll run side by side all the way down the crane of curves. So Braden Fletcher and Peter Bonas wheel to wheel. Further back, we've got some great fights, really, haven't we? That's Alice Young with Hughes and Pendlebury in there too. 11 minutes and 10 seconds left on the clock. Yes, there's Braden Fletcher, so he did get past Peter Bonas. So that's fifth place now for Fletcher from 19th on the grid. That goes to show, though, how quick the leading drivers are in this championship, because Fletcher got past, 13, 14 cars in 2 laps, and now he's struggling to make any further progress, picking them off one at a time, but it's proving difficult to find a way through. Through the claims. Towards Coppice Corner go the leaders. Bill Coombs from Rideout. Gap between Rideout and Gilbert. That's the one to watch for. It's 1.2 seconds between Rideout in second place and Gilbert in third. And Gilbert, of course, trying to work with Sullivan. Bonas, Fletcher, Jenkins trying to go with them if they can. Back out onto the back straight, approaching half race distance then. Yesterday's race we got 13 laps in, so we expect about the same again this time. Got Alice just about hanging on here, Alice Hughes in the number 4 car, but then Josh Young comes up the inside to get ahead of Craig Pendlebury, and Andy Dickinson's now behind that group. Right, leaders are together, I can tell you, out of the window. The top four are nose to tail again now. So we may start seeing some shuffling around there, and we are seeing shuffling around at the front of the field. Look, going through Redgate Corner. We've pretty much got actually the top 7 together again. Through Redgate, the next group of cars come, but it's the leaders that are getting really close together again now, and we may have just had some changing around in that top group. And through the crane of curves then, watching Alice Hughes in 8th place here, Josh Young 9th, then Craig Pendlebury and Andy Dickinson 10th and 11th. They come down through the crane of curves. Ooh, Hughes very sideways there through the old hairpin. The order at the line is Coombs, Rideout, Gilbert, Sullivan and Fletcher, which is still the order, but they're very close, aren't they, look? And this now, these leading 7 cars is where the main interest is going to be now. I think over the remainder of the race, up towards Coppice Corner they go. Liam Sullivan looks to the inside of Caroline Gilbert for 3rd place there. Can he go through? No. Pro is maintained for the time being through the right-hander. Now they sit in the slipstream. Peter Bonas is a little bit out of line there with Greg Jenkins trying to get past. And back straight they go then. Rideout getting a nice push here from Caroline Gilbert with Liam Sullivan, who goes on the inside of her, and Braden Fletcher goes to the outside. She's getting swamped in the braking zone, and Fletcher gets past the pair of them. Fletcher goes up into 3rd place. 5th to 3rd for Braden Fletcher, and now he's attacking for 2nd as well. Gets himself alongside Steve Rideout as they come across the start-finish line. It's Coombs leading, but Braden Fletcher from 19th on the grid is going for 2nd. But Liam Sullivan opts to help Steve Rideout, pushes him down towards Redgate, and he gets back ahead of Fletcher as a result. So Rideout goes 2nd, Sullivan goes back into 3rd, and Fletcher's knocked all the way back down to 4th place. That's what happens though if you get a shove from somebody. It really improves your straight line speed so dramatically. Fletcher's back alongside Sullivan though as they go down through Hollywood. No, had to back out of it to avoid contact. You do not want contact through the crane of curves in these cars, that's for sure. This is all allowing Stuart Coombs to escape a little bit out in front as they're all falling over each other down through the old hairpin. No change of position there. Very tight line taken by Steve Rideout. That might have compromised him on the exit of the corner. Yeah, Sullivan's really reeling him in now as they go up towards Schwantz Curve. Here in shot then, Coombs leads the way, side by side, nearly for 2nd place between Rideout and Fletcher, and then Sullivan and Fletcher's getting into there as well. Fletcher goes out wide, Sullivan's trying to get a cut back on Steve Rideout. Penny Jones, I can tell you, has just come into the pit lane as well, with her car sounding a bit rough, but Sullivan's up the inside of Steve Rideout for 2nd place and goes through, and Rideout gets elbowed out of the way by Braden Fletcher. Fletcher is hanging on to the tail of Liam Sullivan here, and he will not let him go. Sullivan can't shake him off, and everything Liam does, Fletcher just copies and goes through as well. Caroline Gilbert's now at the inside of Steve Rideout, but Rideout gets across to defend the position on the run towards the final chicane. This group's getting bigger as well, isn't it? They've been joined by a few more now. You've got Ben Butler in there and James Harris. Josh Young goes to the outside of Alice Hughes, but can't go through. So they come out onto the pit straight, and Young then runs a bit wide, and Andy Dickinson might just attack him as they come back down towards Redgate Corner. Meanwhile, up front, Greg Jenkins and Peter Bonas are side by side, going into Redgate Corner. And Greg hangs on. Sorry, Greg goes through then, in fact, he was behind him in the line by 6/100ths of a second. This Hughes though, 8th place, Josh Young 9th, Andy Dickinson 10th, then Craig Pendlebury in there in the yellow car, then you've got the blue car and Ben Butler, Grover in there as well as James Harris, so it's all getting very tight. This is all for 8th place, 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th, 13th and 14th places, these 7 just as close as the leading 7. Ooh, Young a little bit wide out onto the curb there on the exit of the old hairpin, now towards Schwantz Curve and McLean's, which is where the leaders are at the moment, and Young goes to the inside of Hughes. Can't make it stick. Leaders though are approaching Coppice Corner, and it is still Stuart Coombs, but he's been caught again now by everybody. Everyone apart maybe from Jenkins and Bonas, who will probably be back with them by the end of the lap though. Josh Young still can't get past Alice Hughes. He's been trying for most of the race. Andy Dickinson still sat keeping watching groups behind them. 5.5 minutes to go then, so we're approaching 3/4 race distance. Now towards the Robert chicane they go. Leaders have just come out of the Robert chicane. And I can tell you, Liam Sullivan is now in the race lead. I've just looked out to the window and Liam Sullivan is into the lead of the race. So that changed around at the chicane, and Braden Fletcher is second. Yes, there they are on the screen now. Fletcher's second, then Coombs third, with Rideout fourth, and now Fletcher goes for the lead up the inside of Sullivan into Redgate corner, but Sullivan's late on the brakes on the outside line. He can carry the momentum there. Coombs is leaning on Fletcher going through the corner. Now this is dangerous because Sullivan's one of the few drivers who can potentially break away from the pack here. Fletcher, Coombs and everyone else need to work together really if they're going to keep him pegged. 5 cars for the lead then, down through the crater curve. Sullivan from Fletcher, from Coombs, Rideout and Caroline Gilbert there, still in the blue and white car, purple and white car, 5th place. Greg Jenkins is still 6th ahead of Peter Bonas, but they're dropping back now. They're not able to match the lap times of the cars in front. Steve Rideout, by the way, still has the fastest lap, 1:36.604. Leaders then up towards Schwantz Curve. Liam Sullivan leading the way. Braden Fletcher is there with him though, and now Stuart Coombs is attacking for second place again up the inside, wheel to wheel through the corner. He wants to get himself back onto terms with the race leader, and to do that he has to get past Braden Fletcher. They lean on each other as they run up towards Coppice corner. Watch for the switch back here for Fletcher if he can get back in line. Had to be a bit cautious there though because Steve Rideout was with him. Onto the back straight. Down the back straight they go then, and you can see now as they fight for second, Sullivan is getting away. They duck and dive to try and break the toe. That's what Sullivan's doing, weaving this way and that. And of course Stuart Coombs can't follow him back to the outside of the road because he has to defend the inside from Braden Fletcher, who's also defending from Steve Rideout. Caroline Gilbert's there making things even more dramatic too. Out onto the back pit straight they come. Rideout 2 wheels on the dirt. Gilbert gets a good run out of the corner. So Sullivan comes across the line. Fletcher is pushing Coombs across the line. They really are working together now. The lead gap is 9/10 of a second. Fletcher now pulls out to try and make the move into Redgate corner. He's late on the brakes and he will go through. So Fletcher back into second place. Coombs down to third. Yep, sits back in behind him, and now they'll work together again on the run down through Hollywood, which they have to do. They have to stop fighting, really, and swapping positions. They've got to work together and get after Liam Sullivan, but you'd imagine Fletcher probably is the quicker of the two, so it makes sense for him to be ahead. They're dragging the whole pack with them, though, because Jenkins and Bonas are back with them, too. If they catch Sullivan, they're going to do it with about a lap or two to go, aren't they? And then we'll have a real dogfight between 7 drivers who all still feel they can win this race. Through Starkeys and Schwantz Curve. Sullivan still leading the way. Fletcher in second though, but now defending from Coombs. Coombs goes to the outside this time into McLean's. Then to the inside, which he made the move stick on a lap ago. Fletcher stays ahead, but they lose a few more tenths to Sullivan. They could all become about 5 for second place. Coombs again with a big look at the inside into Coppice. Onto the exhibition straight. Steve Rideout takes a tight line. It's more to defend from Caroline Gilbert, I think, than anything else. Over the humps underneath the ghost of the Dunlop Bridge. And Greg Jenkins, yes, Greg Jenkins nicked that fastest lap on the last lap. Well spotted, 1:36.536. And he's now under pressure from Peter Bonas, who goes up the inside of him. Peter Bonas gets 6th place back into the final chicane. Right, lead gap was 0.908. It's now, as they cross the line, let's see, there goes Sullivan, there goes Fletcher, 1.2. So the gap has gone up over a second now between the top two, but Fletcher and Coombs have broken away from Rideout and Gilbert and Bonas and Jenkins, so they could now work together. We've got enough time for 2 more laps, so this and 1 more, 2 laps to catch Liam Sullivan. Can they do it? If they work together, in theory, they should be quicker than him, but will they work together? That's the question. They haven't been so far. There's been a bit of pushing on the straights, but through the corners they've been falling over each other. Fletcher's kicked up the dirt further back at Redgate, but he's not one of the leading group. Fletcher there, second place, Coombs third, over the curbs, through the old hairpin. Carry the momentum up through Starkeys and Schwantz towards McLean, which is where Coombs has attacked in the past. But will they work together? That's the question.
It's Harry.
Who's the left-hander. And Fletcher, does he feel the need to defend this time? Middle of the road, so that wasn't too bad. Coombs was with him though, it still looked a little bit awkward through the corner.
I had 40 minutes.
Coombs virtually pushing him up towards Coppice. And I think they're going to have to settle for second here. They're not getting any closer to Liam Sullivan, are they? Not to my eye anyway. But now onto the back straight. This is where the pump drafting will work. Well, Greg Jenkins kicks a bit of the dirt there as well. Fletcher will be screaming at Stuart Coombs, work with me, not against me, push me, which he is doing, but then Fletcher will still have to defend into the corner. Coombs goes to the outside, meanwhile Steve Rideout's defending busily for 4th place as well, keeping Caroline Gilbert and Peter Bonas behind him. On to the final lap of the race then, 1 more lap of the season for the BRSCC Mighty Mini Championship. The Supers are out later on though for their championship decider, don't forget, in the afternoon set of races. On to the last lap then, the lead gap 1.7. Sullivan's not going to get caught. Stuart Coombs is having to defend second place now though. Steve Rideout's trying to attack him, trying to defend third. Steve Rideout wants to get back onto the podium, having started fifth, having finished second in yesterday's race. He wants to get back on the podium again for the final time this season. Down the hill they go. They've dropped Peter Bonas now, who's again resumed his dice with Greg Jenkins. Again, more dust kicked up at Redgate. That might have been from Peter Bonas as Coombs goes on the inside of Fletcher for second place. What a move! And the old hairpin, they trade a bit of paint, a bit of bodywork goes flying, but Coombs goes through. Rideout gets alongside as well now through Starkeys, and Steve Rideout goes into third. Fletcher down to fourth. Caroline Gilbert, they've been caught by Peter Bonas again. Look at the momentum Bonas carries. He's got past Gilbert already, and now he's trying to get past Braden Fletcher on the brakes into McLean's. Fletcher fights back on the inside. More contact is made. Fletcher sideways, gets back through, and Gilbert seizes the opportunity to get back alongside Bonas as well. Up towards Coppice Corner for the final time. Liam Sullivan's missing all the fun, isn't he? Coombs is second, Rideout's third, Fletcher's fourth. Who is fifth though? That's where they were side by side. It is three abreast out of the corner. I think Greg Jenkins is going to get fifth place. Yes, he is. He's certainly got past Caroline Gilbert for sixth, and now he's going for fifth on the inside of Bonas. Getting a push from Gilbert. He should make it stick. Leaders, though, down towards the chicane for the final time, and Braden Fletcher on the inside of Steve Rideout. Oh, and clatters into the side of Stuart Coombs. Rideout sideways through the gravel goes Braden Fletcher. Liam Sullivan will win the race, but all hell breaks loose behind him. I think Steve Rideout will be second. Third place will be Greg Jenkins. Greg Jenkins gets on the podium sensationally at the end. Fourth place, Peter Bonas. Fletcher crossed the line fifth. Gilbert sixth. Hughes seventh. Dickinson eighth. Young ninth. Pendlebury 10th. And Grover 11th. And Stuart Coombs, having led for a lot of the first half of the race, will not finish. Wow, what a dramatic end to the season, a potentially controversial end. That was all because Braden Fletcher was trying to make a move into third place and ended up outbraking himself and clattered into the side of Stuart Coombs' car. He was only trying to get past Steve Rideout. I don't think he meant to pass the pair of them, because it would have been a suicidal move if he was. And, well, anyway, Liam Sullivan finishes in the end 5.5 seconds ahead of anybody else. What a way to end the season for the BRSCC Mighty Mini Championship. The Supers are out this afternoon, and as I said, that is a championship decider with just a point or two separating the top two drivers, so that will all go down to the wire. But the Mighty Minis have put on a heck of a show there. Liam Sullivan will be the champion. Braden Fletcher may not be second place now. I'll try and get confirmation of that later on today. Rest now, everyone. Calm down. It's a good job we've got the lunch break now, isn't it? Here are the results then. Liam Sullivan wins it. Steve Rideout second. Greg Jenkins third. Peter Bonas is fourth. Braden Fletcher fifth. Caroline Gilbert sixth. Alice Hughes seventh. Andrew Dickinson eighth. Josh Young ninth. And Craig Pendlebury dropped down to 10th towards the end, so he lost ground. Ben Butler 11th. Laura Harris came up into 12th. Alistair Richards 13th. Michael Grover 14th. Jim Carolan is 15th, Robert Duke 16th, then Morgan Harris, Simon Carter and Daniel Horn, the last remaining cars on the lead lap. Coombs was essentially a non-finisher, so too were Penny Jones, and Darren Nightingale went out on the third lap of the race. Well, that was a fantastic end to proceedings this morning, but don't forget we'll be back at about 2:05 for the afternoon's action. Kick off with the Mazda MX-5 Super Cup's final round of the championship, and the championship decider for the Super Mighty Minis, then the championship decider for the Mazda MX-5 Championship for the Mark 1 cars. So three final rounds of the championship in a row there. The OSS will be out after that, the Alfas, and the 3B for the lower end of the Mark 1 MX-5 Championship, and the Hondas, who put on a great show before as well, they'll be out to round the day off. So we've had a fantastic morning's action here at Donington Park. I hope you're enjoying this live race day stream. And don't forget you can check the BRSCC's website for all the official results, as well as TSL Timing's website if you're at home to keep up with the live timing. Donington Park app as well. We hope you're enjoying all of the action here from what is always one of the most exciting race meetings of the year. It's good to see a lot of spectators here today, and a lot of you tuning in to watch on the live stream and enjoying our live coverage here at Donington Park. So we're going to go into the lunch break now then. We'll be back at about 2:05 for the start of the afternoon's action. We'll be back. I hope you're enjoying all of the action here from what is always one of the most exciting race meetings of the year. It's good to see a lot of spectators here today and a lot of you tuning in to watch on the live stream and enjoying our live coverage here at Donington Park. So we're going to go into the lunch break now then. We'll be back at about 2:05 for the start of the afternoon's action. We'll be back. I hope you're enjoying all of the action here from what is always one of the most exciting race meetings of the year. It's good to see a lot of spectators here today and a lot of you tuning in to watch on the live stream and enjoying our